Let me see if I can bring this up. Okay. Hopefully I'm loud and clear. Let me check my mic. Okay, hopefully I'm loud and clear because last time my mic was going through my camera. Give me a couple seconds. I'm going to get on his channel and get everything set up. 2 seconds. How's everybody doing tonight? I know this was kind of like a last minute debate kind of setup. Let's go ahead and see if we can get on his channel real quick. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. While we set this up. Okay, get out of that screen, this screen. That's what happens sometimes when you got 50 quadrillion tabs set up on your computer. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and just tie this up real quick. 1 second. I know I'm kind of late to their panel. They're probably waiting for me right now. Give me 2 seconds and then I'll get on. All right. All right. Let me put that in there. Boom. Okay. All right. Let me join their stream real quick. I know that. All right. Now. Oh, yeah. Share screen. That's where I'm going to be. God, I'm such a noob at this, right? All right. Ixnay out of that thing. All right, let's bring this up. Last minute debate before this dusty thing goes down on, what is it, Wednesday when I destroy the shit out of this guy? Anyways, let's bring this up.
With Martae, and that was more of kind of like a mock debate. There he is. So, yeah, man. I'm all for it, man.
Good evening,
Martae,
gentlemen.
can you? Good evening. Can you hear
Martae.
me? Fine.
Yeah, you sound like the Count, so you're right on point. I can hear you loud and clear.
God dang it. God dang. Okay. Are you gonna be streaming, Martae?
Yeah, we're actually live on my end, so you know if you're gonna be.
Can you check
TOS,
just that?
you.
Can you check? Can you please check if everything they can hear us? Everything is fine on your end, just to be sure.
Yeah, let me check. Hey, chat, I know you're out there. Can you guys hear me right now? Or most importantly, can you hear the Count?
Yeah, can you guys hear us?
I know his two large
Testing,
incisor teeth
testing.
get in the way sometimes. Just
God
make sure that he's loud and audible. Just want to double check on this. Okay, I got a thumbs up on my end for my main moderator. So we're good.
Perfect. Okay. So, how about just put up the setting real quick before I go live on my end? What about 5-minute opening statements from both ends? After Matt will start, then will you go, Martae? He's affirmative. You are on the negative on this issue, and then it's not direct. You don't have to be super strong about the opinion, but you can have the floor to have the conversation, just to set up what your opinion is.
This debate is kind of probably because I like the guy a lot and he's up and coming. Just understand this may be like kind of a debate, but it's probably going to end up being more of a conversation. But we're going to have like I'm going to challenge this worldview. Even if he fleshes this out, I may just push back a little bit just to see if he firmly believes in his stance. You know, just a typical thing. Anyways, let's get into this.
Yeah, I agree. Just let's go ahead and do that. And I just wanted to give the format. Afterwards, we do 5 minutes closing each. You will go first, Martae, and then after Matt will have the final word.
So what is the official prompt?
The official prompt that I was given is woman opinions shouldn't matter outside of relationships. Relationship issues. Sorry.
Yeah, that was more accurate, right?
Not necessarily. Like, I mean, I guess I don't have it for because, like I said, Martae, before we spoke, I wasn't necessarily expecting to have like a formal like moderated debate. I just wanted to kind of have more of a discussion. So I can kind of in my opening, I'll do my best to kind of really flesh out and just kind of be more specific about what I meant in the initial video that I posted about this. So
I actually have the video. I can actually put the video in my opening statement too.
Go
Yeah,
for it.
we can just go through it. If we want to have any kind of clarification, we can do it. Just put up your position when it comes to those issues,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we're gonna be as good faith as possible.
Yeah, always,
Okay.
always good faith, good faith. And believe it or not, if I agree with you 100% aftermath, I'll just say I agree with you 100%, man. There it
Sounds
goes.
good to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start on my end, and after that, you guys will have pretty much the floor. Okay. Thank you. So thank you, everybody. Welcome to Emmett's to the Emmett channel to count Emmett. We're gonna be counting today as always. One tricky, two tricky. We have a debate today. It was gracious enough to be taught by Martae, and I'm just gonna go ahead and give them the space. The debate today, as was the prompt given, is woman opinions shouldn't matter outside of relationship issues. Aftermath will be on the affirmative in this, and Martae will be on the negative. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Aftermath 5 minutes uninterrupted for his opening statement. If you use less than that, it's completely fine. Then Martae will do it, and then we'll have a full hour discussion, and hopefully we can go to a good understanding.
All right. Okay, so my position. So first and foremost, I'm an anti-feminist because I advocate for uh, Christian values, Christian ethics. I'd like to see America operate on Christian values, have it be a Christian populous country, because it is a country that is based on that was founded on Christian values. And I am on my path towards Orthodox Christianity. I'd like to go through the catechumen process and be able to call myself an Orthodox Christian. And so basically, I put out a video recently because I also want to. I also am a aspiring online debater. I'd like to engage in more debates to advocate for my worldview and to basically be in the fight for what I believe is right and for truth and for Christianity, because as we all know, Christianity is and has always been under attack by the leftists, the atheists, the secularists, so on and so forth. So I put out a video basically stating that I, as somebody who is an aspiring online debater, wanting to call out the covert feminists that I see on the right, because I believe that the right has a huge problem currently with covert feminists. And what do I mean by that? I think that there are a lot of online female influencers who identify as, quote unquote, right wing, Christian, conservative, but I believe that they are actually covert feminists. And a lot of them, in my opinion, are grifters. Now we can kind of get into that, in the back and forth, but that's kind of my main agenda. And so I realized recently that when it comes to debating, when it comes to just discussions, doing collaborations with, whether it's female influencers, Christian conservatives online that have a fairly large following. I personally don't have any type of interest in engaging with women when it comes to anything outside of um, feminism, the current sexual marketplace, modern dating, modern marriage, the male female sexual dynamics, things like this. I really personally don't have any interest in engaging with women in anything other than those topics. One, because I personally, and I'd like to know, once we kind of get into it, and maybe Martae can address it in his opening, I'd like to know whether Martae thinks that, women should be allowed to vote or not. I personally don't think that women should be allowed to vote, mainly because of the fact that they will never be included in the draft. There's never going to be a situation where women are going to be forced to go out and fight and die or get unalived. TOS. So there's never going to be a situation where they're going to be forced to go out and fight and be unalived, have a limb blown off. But if they have the opportunity to vote, they can vote and send men off to go out and be unalived, have a limb blown off, suffer from PTSD. And I think that's absolutely unjust, and it's absolute, BS that, we live in a country right now that it's set up that way. And so I don't think women should be allowed to vote. And in the video that I posted, I talked about how, in my opinion, what is it? And again, Martae can address this in his opening and in the back and forth. But why do I need to? Why do I need to even care what any woman has to say about things like what's going on in the Middle East, current affairs, the economy, any type of policies, that don't have to do with, like I said, all the things that I listed before, whether it's feminism, the sexual marketplace. In my opinion, it's like they're never going to be in a situation where they're going to be forced to go out and fight in war. And to me, personally, not that I think, if you're somebody who cares about what women think about those issues, like that's fine. But in my opinion, I think it's kind of a waste of time, especially given what my agenda is, what my goal is. And I think that a lot of, and again, we can get into this, but from what I can tell online, there's like multiple people on, Christian conservative influencers online that I've been calling out since I got active on X. And to me, it just seems like they compensate. They will do anything to avoid talking about the duty. And again, I'm specifically talking about the Christian female influencers, not necessarily the liberal feminists, because they're overt feminists. We all know where the blue-haired, pink-haired, tatted up feminists, we all know where they stand. So to a certain degree, I have a little bit more. Sir, to a certain degree, I have a little bit more respect for the overt feminists because we know exactly where they stand, as opposed to the covert feminists on the right, where I feel like they're grifting and they're not really what they say they are. So with that, I'll yield my time.
Thank you, Aftermath, for that. Martae, whenever you're ready, you may start.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm glad that Aftermath has decided to have this conversation tonight about this, and I did want to have a mediator because I have a kind of a point against that, actually. But I'm curious to hear your worldview a little bit more fleshed out. What I heard in your opening statement was a lot of caring about opinions about women. I mean, if you're engaging with them, you must care about their duties to society. If you're saying like, hey, I don't want them to have to vote, that actually is showing that you care about their opinions in action by them saying that they're going to do something or not do something. Like this is all outside of the purview of a relationship. And to me, this is also showing a lot of care about what they do. I mean, you're saying blue-haired feminists and calling them out, especially the Christians, on their belief systems and all this. What you're basically saying is kind of like a contradiction of sorts when you say, I do care about all this, to engage in all this and their opinions outside of relationships. But then you're also saying, well, I don't care about their opinions outside of relationships. Well, here's the thing, though. I'll kind of rein this in a little bit more. So you said that you're going to pursue orthodoxy. And that's something that you said you had a great interest in doing this. So think about this, though, and I'm going to tie two things together. Women's turnout is very progressive, and if you think about this, it also helped amass most of the votes for Kamala Harris compared to men. It also amassed most of the votes for Hillary Clinton compared to men. They operate, if you're talking about what they can do, the is claim is they can vote. And unfortunately, by and large, if we think about this, if we're going to measure the temperature of our nation and you're saying that you're combating feminism all the time, we have to recognize that there is a semblance of women that do want to follow patriarchal values and rules and structure. I do care about how these women think because they're in the fight with us. And I do want to win a lot more women on board with us to where, their views are going to win votes. And then not to mention this, but back to orthodoxy. Think about this. If we're asking for the Theotokos, which is Greek for God bearer, the title given to the Virgin Mary, she emphasizes a central place in the faith, venerated not as divine but herself, but most exalted amongst saints, through whom God became incarnate. I think that asking her to intercede is incorporating a woman's opinion, metaphorically speaking, or as a perspective on the spiritual life. So to me, if you're talking about moving into the faith, we're going to have to ask for the Theotokos intercession as well, too. I think that's vitally important. And this is a woman's opinion outside of relationships. This can be political decisions and things like this. This is interceding on our protection I mean, on anybody's behalf. But this is what I'm saying, though, too. And I'll end on this, though. This is the point I'd like to end on. We do have to care because there's a barometer that shows the temperature of the nation. And I think that women indeed do follow men. We do have to care because if leadership does go awry and astray, we have to think about the opinion that this Miss Good did, trying to run over an agent, where that's the topic of discussion of the nation. She had an opinion and she chose wrong, and she ended up, gaining some wings. No offense to her, but it's like we care enough that we discuss this and we have a response as men and duties as well too. I know they have duties, but the fact that you're engaging with them shows that you care about women's opinions. I'll just leave it at that.
Thanks so much for that, Martae. Just it had a minute left, but yeah. So that's the opening statements. Hope you were able to understand each other points better. We're gonna go for 1 hour of open discussion between you two. After that, we're gonna have the closing statements, and then any questions that are asked through any kind of donation, I will read them. And if not, I will go ahead and let you gentlemen have an excellent rest of your Sunday. So whenever you're ready, you can start.
All right. So Martae, can I just get I don't know if I've ever gotten your actual stance on this. Do you believe that women should be allowed to vote?
I do believe that they should be able to vote, but so there are criteria and there are conditions as well too. So here's something, like, I don't want to ask a question, but I'll kind of answer it too. But I'm also going to ask a question as well too.
Sure.
So I do, but there has to be conditions. Like, you have to have stake in the game. Do you agree with that?
It would depend on what you mean by, like, what would you mean by stake in the game?
Good. So this is what I mean by stake in the game. So I understand that if you have like men vacate the nation en masse, right? And you just have nothing but women, the whole nation would turn blue. Most of it would be blue, right? That would be correct, right?
Yeah, most likely.
That's
absolutely.
something we don't want. We can both agree on that, right?
Yes, but if I may, like, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is that if only women voted, why do you think that is? I mean, I know what I think, but like, I'd like to know, like, why do you think that is that the whole country would go blue if only women voted?
So the reason why I think that is through indoctrination. I think that there has been a lot of psychological brainwashing, propagandization of women. Feminism has done a number to the nation. And when I talk about this, we kind of have to look at a certain class of individuals that I don't want to admit from voting. And this is where kind of like the stake in the game means a lot to me. And I don't want to discount these women, believe it or not. We have women like Rachel Wilson. Would you tell her not to double her husband's vote?
What do you mean double her husband's vote?
So usually if I marry somebody and they like Harris and I like Trump, they'll cancel out my vote if they vote for Harris and I'm voting for Trump. That just means that nobody in that house voted and their votes don't count. Right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but if Rachel Wilson is supporting Andrew Wilson, she's going to vote the way that he votes. So that's 2 votes now that we have, right?
Yeah, sure. But I mean, if I'm going to be consistent, and as much as I love Rachel Wilson, based on my opinion, she wouldn't be allowed to vote either. And I think she would probably agree with that as well. So it's like, that to me is almost irrelevant.
Well, I don't think she would agree with that. And here's why. She's been quoted as saying that whatever Andrew votes, I'll vote the same way, which means she does vote. And she does have a political opinion, right? So when she does have these political opinions, she's in the fight. I think that just barring women totally from the fight who are based, right-wing women who are conservative women, maybe wives, I think we shouldn't omit them from the fight, because not only this, but we can have these wives who are based recruit other women too, because they become matrons that other women look up to. Absent anybody that women can look up to, like, they're not going to follow men completely because they can't be a man. They need to have a woman that they can mirror and reflect and emulate as a reference point.
I don't necessarily like just kind of drag the Wilsons into this, but I mean,
no, I got you.
To be fair, Andrew Wilson has stated that he doesn't believe that women should vote. So I mean, it's kind of like, it's almost kind of like, again, it's almost we're kind of like getting lost in the sauce, if we're going to talk about that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
also
I
though,
get you.
here's the thing: the main thing for me, and I do agree with you, like women are far more susceptible to propaganda. And on top of that, women, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Marte, but it has been shown that, and this is something that Rachel Wilson has talked about. And again, we keep bringing them up, but I mean, she's talked about how women, generally speaking, when they vote, they're like kind of like one policy voters. Like and they're also, women tend to vote on politicians who they find more physically attractive, which to me, it's like, okay, well, you're just basing it on, like, again, it all comes down to feelings, right? Everything just comes down to feelings with women. So that to me is like, that's not what we need, right? And so, but for me, the number one thing is, there's a lot of things that we can get into, but the number one thing is women are always going to be excluded from the draft. Women are never, there's never going to be a situation where women are going to be forced to go out and, fight on the front lines and be unalive, get a limb blown off. Is that something that you would agree on?
Yeah, let's actually dive into this a little bit more, because I remember in your opening statement you did state that they don't have the same duty or expectation, and they also so if something happens, there's like an unequal value exchange that happens. Like they can vote for you to get limbs blown off, but if push comes to shove and the shit hits the fan, like they'll never be called to go out and suffer, die in dishes, things like this. I totally get that. But here's the problem with that I seem to be having a problem with, is that I do understand that. But at the same time, because I agree with you that we shouldn't send women out, because that shouldn't happen. But I do believe that we should propagandize more women to vote correctly, because we can't change what is. What is the fact of the nation right now is that women are able to vote. And until that happens, like, we have to deal with what is. I know what we ought to do is to say, unless you have stake in the game, and this is what I mean by that, like, unless you're married, you have property with a husband, and you're trying to contribute to the birth rate, things like this, we could probably suss that out later. Meaning, like, that's what I mean. Like, if you're contributing to society, I think that if you're a feminist and you're going to Planned Parenthood and they know you by first name basis, by all means, you should not vote, because you're not interested in traditional values. You're actually deleting babies and not being a non-productive citizen. Actually, you're a net negative to the nation, because we have birth rate crisis. But I think that if you have stake in the game and you're a woman and you're married, right? Because, and think about this. This is brilliant what I'm about to bring up. The majority of women, I think 56% of the women in the nation that were married voted conservative. So if you look at the majority of women that are conservative, well, most of them are married, by the way, too, that are conservative, because the ones that are not conservative tend to just not get married, right? We would agree on that. So I would want married women to vote, and I would not want to omit them, because these young girls are going to look up to women that they want to emulate, and they're going to vote just like their moms did. And I think that if we can continue on this and start a tradition of values and things like that, remember what I said about the Theotokos? We do have to consider women valuable to some degree. I mean, as the embodiment of God bearers, right?
Sure. So my pushback on that would be this. I would agree that yes, if you have a conservative man, let's say a right wing man, and he's about his business and his wife respects him, right? He is like the leader of the household, as he should be. He's the head of the household. The wife respects him. Yes, I absolutely think that, and you can see this online all the time, right? Yeah, I do believe that the women, the wives in those relationships will tend to vote wherever however the husband votes. I agree with that.
Correct.
However, my pushback to that would be, I think that you could say that the other way. I think that when you have liberal couples, from what I can tell, it goes the other way. It's a two-way street. And what I mean by that is the husbands in liberal in like more like liberal democratic households, they tend to vote the way that the women vote, right? So at the end of the day, it's just gonna like you were saying, cancel each other out. So if you have a bunch of right-wing women that vote the way that their husbands vote, you're gonna have a bunch of simp beta males that are in liberal relationships that are just going to go with whatever the women said, right? This is a little bit of an anecdotal example. So I drive Uber, right? last night, and I was actually thinking about actually showing you, because I have the dash cam footage, but I was like, whatever, let's not.
All right.
I'll give you a breakdown of what happened.
Yeah,
okay?
go
And
ahead.
again,
I got to hear
This
this.
is totally anecdotal. Okay. So I picked this couple up. And Martae, I can even send you guys the dash cam footage. Just, you guys can look at it and just, we won't air it. But I picked this couple up from a country club, right, in my area, a very upscale country club. And this couple, you tell they were like very well off, very well dressed, older, like probably they were like in their 40s. And the beginning of the ride, it was about a 15-minute ride, 20-minute ride. I was taking them to their hotel, and it started off extremely. It was a very nice, very positive ride, because I'm very friendly with my passengers. I like talking with them, so they're asking me about, my background, where I'm from, all this stuff. Long story short, we kind of, the conversation just kind of shifted to, because I told them about my background, how I'm from, I was born in the former Soviet Union, modern day Armenia, and I know what it's like, from my parents growing up in a communist nation. And I told them how my wife is, from Pakistan, and we're both American citizens, and it was a very, I've been a citizen since I was a kid, but my wife, she, it took us years before she got her citizenship, right? She's been a citizen since like 2020, but it took us years, thousands of dollars, a lot of waiting, and when you're not a citizen, there's a lot of things that you can't do. And so I was telling them all this stuff, and then the conversation kind of turned into all the stuff that's going on in Minnesota, right? All the the ice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And by the end of the ride, it got extremely contentious. And I mean, the couple was sitting there, and it was mostly the chick. It was mostly the wife. I mean, she is sitting there like berating me and completely like lecturing me about how it's not passionate to like not let these illegals in. They just want a better life. And the whole time I'm going, but I kept bringing up the fact that, like, look, I'm not opposed to immigration. I'm an immigrant. My wife's an immigrant. But there's a due process. You have to go through the process. And why is it fair for people that do it the right way? They have to go through all the necessary steps, pay all the fees, which amount to like thousands of dollars in the end. They have to wait years. There's people who wait literally like 10, 15 years before they're able to get their citizenship. Why is it fair for us to have to go through that? And then these people just come in, they just have, basically because they happen to be in Mexico, they just walk across the border, and all of a sudden they're they should just be granted citizenship. And so I was trying to explain that to them, but they just were not hearing it. And the woman just kept like, and it was all emotion based, Martae. It was just all emotion based.
Of course.
How could you do that? These people. And it's like, so to me, that's another reason is that, kind of ties back into what I was saying earlier, where women are all emotional. Everything is based on emotion. They're not rational thinkers, right? Generally speaking, they're not rational thinkers. They don't have the ability to critically think. And so my point being is that, again, you can have these couples that, where basically the woman, if it's like a liberal couple, and it was very obvious to me that, and the guy was doing very little talking. The guy was basically just going off of what the woman was saying, right? And it's just like, okay, I get it. I get how the dynamic in this relationship works.
He sounds like a simp, to be honest with you, and that can happen.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, though. I was listening intently, right, to what you were saying. It sounds like, that can happen. We can see that in societies, but I don't think that, I mean, if you look at this, and I just pulled this up, married women in recent elections voted more conservatively, aligning with men's preferences on issues like immigration and the economy. Trump won married women by smaller margins, but still benefited from this group, often following spousal leads in Republican-leaning families. And that's from pewresearch.org. So if we think about this, it's like, we have to never omit these, even though we can have like speculative, like one-off anecdotes. Like you gave me an anecdote, I'll give you an anecdote that could actually support yours, but actually supports mine as well too. I work a job through going to school, and I do like routes, right? One of the DSPs that I was talking to was a woman leading this whole group, said that there was a protest that I got on my phone. It's a protest where you get weather alerts and stuff. She basically said that if you see people protesting ICE, run over ICE and miss the protesters. Literally, I shit you not. This is what she told me at work. And then as I was like getting help.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Martae. This was a conservative woman or a liberal woman?
This was a very liberal. Obviously, she was liberal. She was directing us at a job who were driving vehicles and stuff, telling us, mind you, this is a temp job that I'm doing right now, to hit ICE if we see protesters. And she looked very serious when she said this, hit ICE and say hi to the protesters. And she said, I mean that. All the while, by the way, while I'm getting help from somebody with a Baphomet necklace on their neck, and I'm an Orthodox Christian, and I'm like, damn, you know what? So I applied for another job, and I got an interview. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. This happens all the time, and she had a nose ring too, by the way, dead giveaway. So if we think about this, by even saying all this, by saying that you got into this entanglement, this argument with somebody in your back seat, by me saying that I heard this issue from or direction from leadership at a job telling me to run over ICE people, like, which is crazy for an employer to tell you. We have to care about women's opinions to the point to where they have us change our actions. Matter of fact, those women's opinions are red pilling you even more. You care about them so much that I guarantee you she's red pilling you more so to lean further conservative and to double down your vote. So where if you get into the next voting block with somebody, your wife is going to vote the same way you do. You care enough to where you come on this podcast about a woman's opinion that you're like, okay, I vilify their opinion so much that now I have to have a counterculture. And your whole channel being the aftermath of me having to deal with this is the result of you caring enough about a woman's opinions that you now have to develop countercultural YouTube channel, and your whole existence that you told me in your opening statement is combating this. To me, that's a lot of care about women's opinions, bro.
Well, to push back a little bit though,
Yeah.
I mean, what you said though, I mean, it kind of goes toward my point, which you have this woman who you said obviously is a liberal woman.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, her telling you, like overtly telling you, hey, you see an ICE agent, go run them over. I mean, do you think that woman, she came to that conclusion that that's a just thing to do based on, you know, because she sat down and, you know, she really like critically thought and like rationally thought things through? Or do you think that was a completely emotionally charged statement that she made based on her feelings as a woman? And so that's why I say that that's not necessarily me caring about women. That's me identifying and saying, look, this woman here, she is literally telling me to go run over. Okay, forget that it's an ICE agent. She's literally telling me to go run over another human being.
Federal agents at that, yeah.
Because of her federal agents, also, you know, a human being because of her feelings. And so I don't think that that's necessarily me caring about her opinion. It's more me identifying and saying, like, look, these women, everything, all of their conclusions that they come up with is completely based on their emotions. And so why do I need to sit and actually go, tell me more about that. Tell me more about why you think that I should go run over this person.
Well, this is why we care, to be honest. And this goes back to my point, because I know we're playing ping pong with points right now. This is why we care a lot, because you would even acknowledge that approach will always determine response, right? Needless to say, and this is also anecdotal, by the way, you could take it or leave it. Needless to say, 10 people had a discussion, and they're short staffed already anyways. 10 people had a discussion after they heard this, and 10 people are already applying for other jobs. We care enough about people's opinions that their opinions are now going to affect the political, social, and even work landscape to where they're going to suffer. Women are going to suffer because we care enough about their opinions that people with common sense will abandon them, because what happens is loss of revenue, loss of product, and all this. We see it at Marvel movies actually too. Whenever we have these movies with these boss babes and they have their own opinion, we care enough to rob them of ticket sales and not show up and see that at all. We care by not voting with our dollars. So actually, it's the inverse. We do care about women's opinions. It's just the way that we do it is by non-inaction sometimes.
Sure. To kind of go off of what I was saying, though, is women, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. Whoops. So women, from my understanding, women, when they are in places of power, they are more likely to go to war as opposed to men. Would you agree with that? I think that's something that
they're actually 25% more likely to go to war compared to men.
yeah.
But to me, that doesn't really address the point of us not caring about their opinion, because that's just, a woman being in leadership. It's like you're kind of forced to care to some degree, but we're also forced to care too, because these women bear our children. We care enough to say what duties they don't do. You've even said in your opening statement, like, women aren't fulfilling their duties. To me, that's caring about what women also don't do. So even when you utter things like, I care that these women, don't go to war and they don't take these sacrifices, that's also caring about women's opinions as well too. But here's the thing though, let me kind of nip this in the bud real quick. Okay. So if we think about this, like, we are going to have daughters someday. We have mothers. We have people that we would actually jump in front of a bullet for. We care enough to fulfill these duties. And as a man, we have to have that counter, and we have to have somebody that's going to be one with us if we unite in Christ. We care enough for that to pick and vet our partners, because if you're with somebody, and I know this is going into the relationship, outside of relationships, but we have to work with these women regardless. Like, there's going to be jobs where you're going to pick up women and I'm going to be around women in this life. We're going to care enough to actually articulate our approach in debates and when we combat feminism enough to where we're actually learning how to be better at pushing back against their nonsensical feelings drivel. So to me, we care. It's just like you're just finding a different mode of care and you're using it to weaponize against something that you feel is an injustice against men.
Yeah. So to kind of dive more into the, as far as like the duties, from what I can tell, and you tell me what you think, from what I can tell, in America currently, women don't have any duties. If we want to talk about duties that women have, what duties or obligations do women have? I mean, as far as I can tell, women are not obligated to prioritize marriage and have kids. They can if they. It's all. From what I can tell, it's all optional for women. Women are not obligated to have kids. They're not obligated. They are actually encouraged by the mainstream media and by our culture to go and pursue a career. However, they're not forced to. It's not a duty. If they decide they don't want to go to college, they don't have to, and they're not going to be vilified for it. Women aren't. Again, they're not obligated to go fight in wars. They're not obligated to go work. Like, if you had a 35-year-old woman say, hey, guy, I'm kind of in the middle of I'm between jobs right now, and I moved back in with my parents for a while, just so I can, get back on my feet. Nobody is gonna shame that woman, right? Nobody. But the reverse, right? You have a 35-year-old guy tell you, yeah, I had to move back in with my mom. I'm kind of in between jobs right now. Dude, that guy is going to be the laughing stock of his community. All right. I mean, would you agree with that? That's kind of the case.
Yeah. But can I ask you 2 questions though? I have 2 questions because I said, yes, I answered your question. I do want to ask a question though. Do you care about the birth rate crisis and how critical this could be in the future of our nation?
100%.
So you care about women because you have to care about their inaction. We care enough about their inaction that's something that we would actually comment on and say that that's bad. That's a net bad because they're inactive and they basically what you're saying is like, I don't care. Women don't care because they don't have a duty in this nation. Yeah, they aren't having babies. They get on platforms and talk about this all the time. I hear it on TikTok often. They'll get on there and say that they're destroying a fetus, which isn't a life according to them. And it's like, yes, I don't care about that opinion enough to where it's bad, but I must find a way to destroy this ideology, which means I do care about it enough to where I have to combat it. You see how this is kind of circular to some degree, but at the same time, it's like, if we pull back away from this and we look at ourselves and our actions as men, you wouldn't be out on social media probably if women weren't doing these actions like deleting babies and having feminism, would you?
It's hard to say. I probably still would be online because it's something that I probably would still start a YouTube channel, and if we lived in like a perfect society where like women actually had duties, we lived in like a Christian populous country, and
Yeah.
women actually respected men, and they did prioritize marriage as they should. I mean, I would still probably start a YouTube channel and just kind of be a regular, I probably do like reaction videos, do new stuff. I do have another YouTube channel that's completely non-political. It has nothing to do with politics,
Yeah.
and so I'd still be on YouTube. But to go back a little bit to what you were saying about caring about women's opinions, I think there's a little bit of conflation here, which is okay. I have a wife and a daughter. I care about them, obviously, right? But it's like that doesn't necessarily mean that, like my wife, my wife, for example, my wife is amazing, right? My wife has accomplished more in the span of 10 years than I have, and most people have in their entire lifetimes, right? And I can get into that too, but it's kind of irrelevant. My wife doesn't necessarily care about. She's not really into like politics, right? She doesn't. It's not her thing, right? Um, but even if she did, like, I would, because she's my wife, I'm not saying that, like, if my wife felt a certain way about something that didn't have to do with feminism, like, in fact, she does have some opinions about like the immigration, because we're currently in the process of trying to get her mom over here. Um, but because of all the stuff that's going on, and like I said, my wife's from Pakistan, um, it's delaying because of the Trump, I guess, put a pause on all of the visas currently. So there's like a pause going on. So it's just delaying everything, and it just sucks.
So I'll ask you. Hopefully, I didn't interrupt you, but I just have a question real quick because you did bring up her. If she voted against your vote, meaning like if she voted blue, would you care?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I care. I would try to convince her otherwise. But hang on.
Outside of that, yeah.
But that's because we currently live in a society where women are allowed to vote, right? And I know if she voted, she'd probably vote blue. But again, this goes back to what I was saying, where women tend to be one policy voters, right? And I know that the only reason that she would vote blue is because it would help us as far as like, speeding up the immigration process for her mom. So, again, that kind of makes my point to a certain degree. But what I was trying to say was that, again, I don't think that me caring about, my wife, my daughter, like what they have to say, like what their opinions are, that doesn't necessarily mean that, I mean, I'll listen to like if my daughter grows up, right, like when she becomes a teenager and she's very passionate about like a certain political issue or something, sure, I'll sit down, I'll listen to her. But again, that's kind of anecdotal, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if
it
some
is.
teen like so if some teen like for example, if some female influencer reaches out to me, like if I grow my channel to the point where I have a little bit of notoriety, and hopefully I can establish myself as a decent debater, and where I have other influencers, other YouTubers and debaters reaching out to me and saying, hey, I'd like to debate you on XYZ. If it happens to be like a female YouTuber, a debater, and if they want to debate with me on, let's say, the Israel, right? Like all the Israel wars going on, right? Like let's say the Iran war. Okay, just an example. She reaches out to me and say, "Hey, Petros, I want to debate you on. I heard what you said about your take on the Iran war. I'd like to debate with you on this." I'd be like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Like I really don't have any interest, because what's it to you? What's it to you? You are never going to be." And I'll give you another example. So I went to work
hold
on
on.
debate one.
Can I stop you real quick?
Go for it.
So when you said, no, I don't want to do this, what's it to you? And then she has an exchange with you and says, well, this is what it is to me. Basically, you're having a debate anyways with this woman, right? Even if it's a meta debate about the debate.
Well, no, I would probably, in that hypothetical, I would probably ask her like, I would ask her, I'd be like, why do you have an interest in talking about this particular topic? And she would probably say something along the lines of, well, I think it's an important issue, blah, blah, blah. And then I would ask her, I would like, well, is there ever going to be a situation where you your mom, your sister, if you have a daughter, are you ever going to be in a situation where you're going to be forced to go and fight? And obviously she's going to say no. So I'm like, well, why do I even need to?
Okay, let me play devil's advocate real quick. So in Israel, it wasn't in Israel, but I forgot where it was, but they were so short on men because men were getting wrecked so bad that they just needed numbers, and women were being enlisted because they were so short. Women had to be enlisted. So it's like, what if that was the conversation? And she was like, that's the country of my origin. And I want to do this debate with you because women are getting enlisted to go to war because we're so short on numbers that they're now recruiting women. What then? What say you?
Where was this happening? Where was this happening?
I think it's like Israel. I did a lot of research for a book that I'm still continuing. It's taking like 10 years to write this book. But there's a country where it was the men were getting just destroyed so bad that they just needed numbers. And that's the only way that women were able to be a part of the military. And I think half of it was like them cosplaying as military personnel, and they were just support roles, but they just needed numbers because they're being decimated so bad. I can actually look this up if you want me to.
Yeah, that's fine. While you're doing that, I will say though, so a couple of things with that. So I do know that in Israel, and this is true, and I will concede to this.
Yeah.
In Israel, everybody, man and woman, they are obligated to serve in the military. I think it is a minimum of 2 years. I think
it was Israel. That's where I think it was.
It is Israel. It is Israel. Yeah, because they are obligated. However, to be fair, we have to point out, and Israel is a very it's kind of the exception, right? It's kind of like, because Israel is a very unique place, right? So it is kind of the outlier in as far as like the world is concerned, but. And the women are obligated to serve in the military. However,
but she brings this up to you. Well, would you say no? I'm not going to discuss this with you.
Okay, well, let me get to that. Let me finish this point real quick. I will say, it is fair to point out though that the women in Israel that are obligated to serve in the military, from my understanding, and you can fact check this as well, they're not actually going to the front lines. From my understanding, they are serving in like auxiliary they have like more auxiliary roles where they're doing more like
support roles,
support roles. Yeah. So they're not like going to the front lines. And so to your question, I would tell her, well, I mean, first of all, I don't see a situation in that situation, I think it would be more probable that instead of like forcing the women, maybe if they, force the women to go and serve, they still probably wouldn't send the women to the front lines. It would be like the situation in Israel where it's more support roles.
So I have a question. Like, would you tell her this?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would tell her.
So you care about a woman's opinion enough to where you're just going to have this conversation with her to this point, this extent?
Well, no, but well, hang on though. The hypothetical was if like a female debater reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want to debate you on this," then I would have the exchange with her. But that's not. I mean, how is that me? Like, I mean, she's saying, "Hey, I want to debate you on this," and I'm explaining to her that I really don't have any interest in. I'll debate with you on XYZ, meaning like feminism, women's issues, the sexual marketplace.
And she says,
I'll debate with you.
I'm from Israel. We're being conscripted out there. We're being conscripted in Norway, Sweden, and all these other countries that are more egalitarian. And when we're being conscripted to go to war, not only war, but we're being conscripted to even be, I would say, like support service roles in auxiliary units and things like this, adjacent to like the battlefield and stuff. I want to have this debate with you, and I want to have a conversation to see if we can have equal footing or equal ground, or see what your opinion would be. You wouldn't have this conversation with her about that?
I mean, this would be more of like a very like hyper specific outlier, right? And I mean, if that were the case, which again, I just don't see something like that happening. What I was trying to say was that in those situations, it's most likely that they would start recruiting, like elderly, and this has happened too. Like in the Ukraine, this has happened where they didn't have enough like fighting age men, so they started basically forcing all of the elderly men, right? So
I can see that.
Situations, so in situations like that, I would say, well, I mean, are they being recruited? I would ask her, like, well, are they being recruited to actually go and fight in the front lines? Like, is that something that's happening? And to answer your question, I would probably in that specific, like hyper specific, like outlier of a situation, I might, you know what I mean? But again, it's like, it's so,
I mean, but that's
it's
not
such an
so much of an outlier. Israel is a hot topic subject today, even by many means in discussions when we talk about this, and we're talking about Israel's influence, and that's such a big thing when we talk about the Jays running society in Hollywood and all that. All this just leads back to Israel. So I don't know if it's that much of an outlier, especially if they're being conscripted. So this is my whole point, just to tie this in, because Emmett looks like he's about to murder somebody right now. So this is the thing. I'll tie it in real quick. So if a woman wanted to have an opinion and she's from this, she has her ancestry, because there's so many people who are adjacent, they care about the Israeli conflict right now, who are saying, okay, well, women are being conscripted to go to war. I want to have this discussion with you. You wouldn't engage with this discussion with this woman?
I mean, again, I could see a situation like that, like where it's like a very specific situation like that. I might, but again, I mean, that's not, again, I think it's fair to point out that that's kind of I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Like, I feel like that's a very hyper specific, hypothetical outlier. And in those situations, and again, there's always exceptions to the rule, right? I think that will be my answer. There's always exceptions to the rule. And so, yeah, I'm not going to say I'll never debate a woman on things that are outside of the topics that I've listed. So in that situation, yeah, there's always exceptions to the rule, and I could possibly do that. So that would be my answer.
So but I do have one last question real quick before I let you go on. Do you think that feminism, do you think that relationships, and do you think that women's other proclivities and their behaviors right now do affect things outside of relationship dynamics? Like voting, other things in society, not just relationships. Do you think feminism infiltrates everything, like the air we breathe? Do you think it's involved in everything more than just relationships?
You mean here in America, like as far as like American society and culture?
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever run away from feminism if you run away from just a conflict in women and relationships? Do you think it's embedded in the workplace, the voting bloc, military?
Yeah, I mean,
okay. So do you care about those things?
Yeah, but that ties into the topic of feminism.
Yeah. Right. I mean, so feminism is part and parcel with Hollywood right now, the movies, the way that they're being orchestrated. Disney right now is having a huge pushback because they're pushing traditional values. And a lot of liberal women are complaining about this, saying that now we're brainwashing them with traditional values. I think it's good for us to carry enough to fight up all this stuff. And I think that since feminism is infiltrating law enforcement, the voting bloc, family structures, movies, and all that, I think we should care enough about women's opinions outside of relationships, because feminism is affecting everything else around the world around us and actually deteriorating society as a whole.
Right. So, but again, that's to my point, is that I believe, yes, the feminism has absolutely infiltrated, Hollywood. Like, dude, my wife will be watching like these Netflix movies, and like I'll just stand there for a second and like look at it, and I just like I can't help but to like cringe, because it's like it's such obvious propaganda. It's such obvious anti-male, anti-patriarchal propaganda. But that relates to the topic of feminism. Yeah. So that to me is like, yeah, I'll have a debate about that with a woman if they want to discuss, like if a female says, hey, I want to debate with you about like feminism in Hollywood, and then I would say, yeah, I'm totally down for that. Like, let's come up with a prompt. Totally down to do that. However, if a woman says, Petros, I want to have a debate with you about how, I don't know, how Martin Scorsese movies are better than Francis Ford Coppola movies, I'm like, yeah, I'm good, thanks. I got, there's plenty of guys I can have that debate with. I really don't have any interest in doing that. You know what I mean?
I'm sure,
because that doesn't necessarily.
But I'm sure. But here's the problem that you're going to run into. Since feminism is involved in everything, it isn't just isolated colloquially like to just relationships, right? You would agree with that, right? It's infecting everything societally. Matter of fact, women, the way that they purchase things, the way that they consume things, the way that they buy and purchase things moves society and culture so much that men have to now combat this by coming out with the red pill and everything else. The fact that you have a podcast saying it's the aftermath and we have to combat feminism means that feminism is affecting everything. So meaning like if you had a podcast and you said, it would sound kind of weird if you had a podcast and you said, the only reason why my channel exists is to combat women's issues in relationships. Would sound really weird because then you would say, well, not the feminism in the workplace, not the feminism in the military, not the feminism everywhere else, and even the way that our food is made, because we would say that a lot of men would say that they're sandwich makers, right? Well, you're going to have to care about how the sandwich is made. You're going to have to care about the way that women orchestrate society right now as a whole outside of relationships. We have to care, bro. There's no way you can escape this. If you go to work, you're going to deal with women's opinions. If you go anywhere else, you're going to have to care about women's everything. That's why we have to combat this as a whole. Matter of fact, I think that we can build one unique front. You and me both, I think we could tag team and men in the trenches can fight feminism together. But we can't just do this in relationships. We have to care about their opinions as they're voting in politics, as they're climbing. Like, matter of fact, Kamala Harris, we don't agree with her policy. She wants to be more babies than anything else. That means we have to care about women's opinions because that's one woman's opinion that would have led to more deaths than anything else in society.
So, my pushback on this would be, you mentioned having to deal with women's opinions in the workplace. In the society that I would advocate for, that wouldn't be an issue because, in my opinion, I don't even think that women should be in the workforce. You know, now there's exceptions. Obviously, it's not to say that women can't go in the workforce, but in the world that I would advocate for, women would be homemakers. Women would be I would advocate for women prioritizing marriage in their most fertile years, in their early 20s, prioritizing finding a husband, start to have kids, many kids, 4, 5, 6 kids, and them being right. Because if we, and this is something that, again, you know, Andrew Wilson, Rachel Wilson, they talk about all the time, how if women got out of the workforce, that would immediately double the wages of men, right? That would double the wages of men. So if women are at the house with the children, the man can go work, make a decent living so that he could provide. We wouldn't even have to deal with that. We wouldn't have to deal with going to work. Do you know how many jobs I have worked with women, excuse me. I have worked with women on every like type of job, whether it's like manual labor job, sales, administrative, management, and it is an absolute nightmare working with women. It's a nightmare.
I agree.
You don't have to take my word for it, and you don't have to take Martae's word.
I totally agree with you.
You can go ask any woman, to anybody listening. Go ask any woman. Go ask a female that works with women and ask them what's it like working with women. They will tell you it is a fucking nightmare. It is nonstop, constant drama, which none of it has to do with the work. It's just female drama. My wife is a dental hygienist.
So what you're saying is you don't want to have to care about a woman's opinion. Am I right?
Other than, like, for example, the women.
If we say that you don't want to have to care about that, the thing that you gave me is like,
I don't care.
It's a nightmare to deal with women, means that you don't want to have to care to listen to their terms. To me, that's kind of like the inverse. You're caring enough to be like, let me evacuate this building because this woman is in there uttering these opinions about running over ICE agents and stuff like that, to where we've evacuated this job. Everybody's putting in applications everywhere else. I think that we care enough. And then here's the other thing too. You've mentioned something about women leaving the workforce. Now, I think that would be a bad premise, and here's why. I think that women have always been teachers, midwives, nurses. You know, they've always had a place in the workforce. It's just that they didn't dominate men's positions in the workforce. Now, I think that that's a good thing. If you have midwives, we should care about the midwives' opinions. And if there's a nurse, I think that we should care about her opinion, especially if she's being soothing to us.
If I may interrupt, though. Okay, hang on a second. We should care about the midwives. We should care about the midwives' opinions. Which opinions? Like, what do you mean?
So let's say
Which
that
opinions
let's say
of-
you have a woman come over to your house and she's like, "All right, we're gonna have this home birth. Not only we're gonna have this home birth, but I'm gonna help orchestrate this whole process and guide you through it." Would you care about her opinion?
You mean as it pertains to her, like her job?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's well. Hang on a minute. The question was, would I care if a midwife came to my house and started telling me about how to set up the pregnancy process, right? How they're going to do the midwife, everything goes into that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that pertains to that pertains to her job.
And
Now,
this
if
is
that
outside
same
of
mid-
relationship,
well, hang on,
right?
hang on. Well, hang on a minute. But if that same midwife comes in, right, and her job is to be a midwife from my wife who's pregnant, and she starts talking to me about the war in Gaza, I'd be like, "Hey,
Well,
lady, can you do
that's
your
different.
job?" I don't really. Well, that's what I mean. That's my whole point. Is
But
that
but she's
we're
not
kind of talking
necessarily
about two different things.
But she's not necessarily
Well,
going to do that because she wants to keep her job. She doesn't. Usually, what people do when they get to a job, like a teacher, unlike nowadays, that can be like conflated easily with people ruining their job. But normally, what traditionally people did when it came to voting and things like that, I don't know why society's changed so much. Nobody ever talked about their voting opinions. They closed the curtain and they kept that business to themselves. Nobody ever talked about that. They like if you asked somebody back in the day, who did you vote for? It would have been the rudest question to ask because remember, there's a curtain that goes behind and you keep it secret, and people keep politics to themselves and sometimes religion. They don't even talk about that, let alone at work. Like, remember those two things that they tell you not to talk about: work and religion and politics at work. But typically, a midwife is going to go to your house, and either you're politically aligned or religiously aligned with this midwife. You're going to generally care about a midwife's opinion regardless. They're not going to come there and say something like, if they're a Satanist and they go to a Christian household, they're not going to talk about Satan. They're usually going to be in alignment with what you guys think anyways. So I think you're going to be caring about a midwife's opinion when it comes to work, for sure.
Well, yeah, but I mean I don't understand what that has to do with, like, yeah, if a midwife comes over and she's talking about all the stuff that has to do with midwife stuff, then yeah, that's sure, she's the professional, right? I mean, yeah, I'm going to listen to what she's saying, but again, like that, what does that have to do with me caring about her opinion about the economy or the war in the Middle East? You know
But
what I mean?
we didn't talk about what the opinion was. We're just saying generally opinion. Like, let's say a midwife is just a midwife and she's her only duty, because her duty isn't there to come to you talk about the war in Gaza. She's only coming to your house because it would be really weird if a midwife came to your house and she's like, let me go there and talk about the war in Gaza. Generally, they're not going to do that. They're going to come there and say, I have a duty to make sure that this child is delivered safely and that this process happens to where it's a good experience for the child and parents. The war in Gaza wouldn't provide a good experience, but they're going to come and generally you're going to be receptive to their opinions and how they feel. They're going to talk about the process in relation to the child bear. You're going to care, bro. There's no way you can't not care.
But I'm not, that's not what I'm not arguing that. Yeah. And by the way, I'm not saying, like, dude, when I interact with a woman, it's not I'm advocating that we just totally like I'm very cordial with women. Unless like a woman, although I've started personally, I'm getting a little bit off topic, but it kind of pertains to what I'm saying.
I got you.
I've started to, because I used to be just like wherever I went, right? Whether it's the bank, the grocery store, wherever, I would do my level best to just be very, very respectful with women, right? Just be super nice, regardless if they were being not reciprocating that. But now I'm at a point now, like when I go to this bank or whatever, I'm going to match energies. Like if I'm dealing with a woman, I'm going to match energies with her because it's just like, it's becoming more and more common now where I go somewhere to deal, like, whether it's like the, UPS or whatever, where I'm just constantly running into these women that are just, they're just so salty and just have like such a negative attitude, right? And they're just like really smug and just like not friendly. So I've started just matching energies with these women, right?
So you're going to meet them where they're at, right?
Yes.
That takes a level of care to even do that, right?
But I'm not doing that because I'm doing that because I stopped caring about their feelings because I used to care, right? That's the difference. I used to care and I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, she's a woman. I'll still be respectful with her. But I realize that it doesn't even matter. Like if a chick is in a bad mood and it just seems like women are in bad moods all the time now. If she's going to be rude with me, then fuck you. I'm not going to be nice to you. I'm going to match your energy. You're going to be fucking rude with me. I'm going to be rude with you. I'm going to be crass. And
it takes a level of care to match somebody because you're going to have to mirror somebody's actions. Now, here's the thing, though. I'll be honest with you. I just recently went to Circle K to pump some gas, and I hate going to the Circle K because I hate the way that this woman responds all the time. This is not caring. Is not caring is indifference, and to be indifferent is not matching somebody. Matter of fact, I'll even describe what not caring is like. And this is something that I loathe and I hate when women do this. Matter of fact, if there are women listening to this, I don't care. I honestly don't care. So when I go into her store, because it's usually this black woman that's there, and she always says, "Hey, sugar, how you doing? Hey, honey, hey, dear." I'm not your dear. I hate when women call me sugar, and I'm not with them.
I can't stand that.
And what's annoying is she says, "Hey, love." That's what it is. She says, "Hey, love." Like, I hate that because I'm not in a relationship with you. You do not know me from Jack, and you're going to say this. But this is what not caring is, to be honest with you. The aftermath is when you walk in and she says, "Hey, love," and you don't respond. You don't feel anything. That's not caring. But if I were to go in there one day and I said, "Hey, love," yeah, so what is it to you? Like, I care. Like, that's caring, because now I have to change my behavior for this woman. Now, indifference to me is not caring. If she said, "Hey, love," and I just ignored it and said, "Snickers, $1.49, that's not caring. Yeah. But if you're telling me that you're going to mirror behavior or kind of like respond to certain behavior and change the way that you act, that's care. That's a lot of care, bro.
Well, yeah, but don't you think that could kind of be a slippery slope? I can see what you're saying, but don't you think that can be a slippery slope where it's like yeah, every time you go in, it's the same. I get it too. Believe me, I deal with the same thing with these women, dude. Hun, I get that all the time. Dude, I'll have like women that are like clearly like 10 years younger than me, right? I'll go to the Starbucks or whatever, and they'll hand me my coffee and they'll go, "Here you go, hun." I'm like, "Excuse me, hun? How about sir?
Wait, did you tell them that?
No, I haven't had that, but I mean, I've had a few times.
That's not care. If you don't tell her that, then you don't care. Then that's really what not caring is. Caring is you responding to that and you taking the extra added effort to say no, and then you correct her. That's actually caring about a woman's opinion, to believe it or not, your response.
Well, yeah, but the point that I was trying to make was that I can see what you're saying, but to me, it's a slippery slope, because if like you're constantly going in there and they're constantly with the "Han," "sweetie," like "love," all that. I mean, at what point are you going to, because what's to stop them? Like, if you continue to do that, because this is another thing that's very inherent with women, where they tend to, like, women are masters at pushing buttons, right? Like pushing buttons. And I feel like with women, they're going to constantly do it. If they see that you're not responding, they're going to constantly do it until you kind of snap. So for me, it's like, at what point, like, where do you draw the line? Like, if you go in one day and you're constantly just like, whatever, I'll give you the pack of smokes, whatever, pump, 20 on pump 2, and they're constantly doing that. But then one day you go in and they're like, they say something like, "Yeah, here you go, simp, here you go, fuckboy, here you go, FAG, here you go." I mean, are you still gonna be like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'm good"? I mean, at what point would you like put your foot down and be like, "Excuse me, yeah, no," like, that's no,
yeah,
you don't get to.
There's a threshold. So there's a threshold that happens when we begin to care. That would be the response. If we have no response, indifference is actually lack of care, believe it or not. If you look up, I'm pretty sure if I looked up the definition of indifference, this would kind of be like a lack of response, the not needed change of action or anything like that. But if we get to that threshold to where a woman is able to change a man's behavior and we act out of character, we are then caring at that point about changing her behavior, approaching the addressing her approach, or at least changing the temperature of the room when we respond back to her. That is care in a nutshell. I think that indifference
But is it
is
but
probably
is it
the
really,
most least caring
but
thing you could ever do.
but is it
So
really caring, or is it just you like kind of sticking up for yourself and like putting your foot down? I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's not.
If you
So
put your
well,
if you
that's
put your
not.
foot down and stick up for yourself, you
But it's
care
not.
about yourself, right?
Hang
Yeah.
on, but it's not.
But
But you're not caring. It's not caring about them. It's caring about you. It's caring. It's having self respect for you. It's like, hey, I'm kind of tired of this broad constantly like trying to belittle me and degrade me. So that's not necessarily. I would disagree and say you're not caring about them. You're caring about yourself,
yeah,
right?
you can care about
So-
yourself, but also part and parcel care about them. But Emmett's got that 1,000-yard stare going on right now. Emmett, I know
I don't
the
have a
time's
yard
got over
stare,
12
so
minutes.
the only thing I'm gonna do right now as an actual moderator job is I'm gonna give you the actual definition of indifference. This is
Yeah.
by
Okay, we'll
Cambridge,
take it.
and is the quality of not caring about or being interested in something or someone. That is according to the
There you go.
to the dictionary.
Yeah,
Just-
it's not
just a
caring
second.
or doing anything or responding. Yeah, thank you, Emmett, for being an unbiased moderator and pointing that out. But I just wanted to get the definition out there but that's what it means is if you're not responding and you're not responsive, that's not caring. Anything else other than that is a form of care. It can be looked at as even if you're standing up for yourself, you have to bring, because you're not defending yourself from nothing. You're defending yourself from a woman's opinion, which in third part means that you do care enough about her opinion to correct it. Yeah, I would disagree.
Well, it's not necessarily in that hypothetical situation. I would argue that you're not necessarily caring about her opinion. You're having some self-respect and self-dignity to you're responding to her. You're not necessarily caring about what she's saying. You're responding to the way that she's treating you, right? So like in my opinion, if she's constantly with the Han sweetheart, to me it's like kind of like it's like constantly poking the bear, right? It's like these micro disrespects.
He's
So
trying to get
to
you
me,
to
it's not-
care.
yeah. So
And then you're gonna break and
well,
you're
it's
gonna
not-
care.
It's not care.
That's the
It's not
point.
care. Like you're. But again, it's not. I mean, you're sticking up for yourself because after so many times,
Yep.
it's like it's not caring about what she thinks. You're just like saying like, "Hey, lady, knock it off." You know what I mean? It's,
But
to give me?
Isn't what she thinks the thing that's irritating you?
Well,
Because it's coming
not,
out verbally.
Yeah, but you're not. Yeah, but you're not. How do I know what she thinks? You know what
Because
I mean?
she's verbally telling you, and it's annoying you.
Well, what she's verbally doing is she's trying to get a reaction for.
She's
I would
trying to get you to care.
Well, is it really care? I mean, that's kind of like, is it really caring, or she's trying to get a reaction out of you? Is that really caring?
So,
like, how is that caring?
Care and the response, when we talk about women's opinions mattering, meaning like it matters to you to change behavior, to change your response, to change your approach, to change even the dynamic of you acting out of character. That to me is a form of care. You care enough to act, because care can have care can carry two different kinds of workforce as we think about this, but doing the work. Care could be like compassionate care, right? But the care that we mean about this is like meaning matter. Like, does it matter? Well, it matters enough for you to change and alter your behavior. That's what we mean by care in this instance, for sure.
Well, sure, but again, I mean, that's not. I would just double down and say, like, it's not me caring about what she thinks. It's about me caring about myself and having some self-respect and putting this broad in her place and be like, hey, broad, enough with that. Like, stop calling me hun. I'm not your hun. I'm not your little fuck boy. I'm not your 12-year-old nephew. Call me sir, right? So again, and
that kind of answers it though. When you say like, I don't care about her opinion, but I'm going to respond to her opinion and then address her promptly. That's caring.
That's not an opinion though. Like, how is it an opinion if she's just trying to, like, for her own amusement, just trying to get a reaction? Like, what opinion is she?
If she calls you an F boy, that's an opinion, right?
Yeah, but that's something that, again, that's her trying to get. She may or may not think that I'm a fuckboy, right? She may or may not
Which
think
would
that,
be an
but
opinion, right?
well, hang on a minute
Yeah.
though. I don't know for a fact if she actually thinks I'm a fuckboy. She might just be very well and very likely just doing that to get a reaction. So she
Yeah.
may or may not think that. So again, it's like I don't know what she's thinking. I can only go off of what she's doing.
Yeah.
But
So
again, to
go ahead.
yeah, go
Finish.
ahead.
Finish what you're gonna say.
I was gonna say, we can, I feel like we can kind of go back and forth on this particular hypothetical, all day long. But at the end of the day, my main thing was that, again, I just kind of like circle it back around. Uh, I don't care about it. To me, at the end of the day, it's about like, we're not talking about like, uh, hyper specific hypotheticals and anecdotals. To me, it's just like, generally speaking, I really don't have any interest. I don't because of because of what we talked about, how women can't go fight in war. They don't have any duties in society. They're not. Nothing is expected of women. Nothing is absolutely expected of women in today's society, right? And so they're never going to be forced to go fight in war. So I don't care. Now, look, again, if you care what women think, if you care what like your wife thinks, right? What your next door neighbor thinks, what your female coworker thinks, if you care what some female influencer has to say about the war in Gaza, about Venezuela, about any issues that aren't related to feminism and the birth rate crisis, that's fine. I'm not saying I'm not, that's you. That's your prerogative. Me personally, I just don't see. I have no interest. I don't care what any like Anna Kasparian, right, during World War debate. It was kind of announced that I can't remember if it was the moderator or one of the analysts, but it was revealed that Anna doesn't really have any interest. Like feminism, talking about and debating about feminism is not really like something that she's interested in. She'd much rather talk about other political things like foreign policy, the wars in the Middle East. And I'm going, okay, so you have this woman, Anna Kasparian is an atheist. She has said this overtly. She's an atheist. She has no children. She doesn't want children. She said that at the debate, right? She said she doesn't want children. So it's like, so let me get this straight. You as a woman, you don't have a daughter. You're never going to be forced to go and fight in the Middle East. So it's like, why do I need to care what this little woman has to say about anything that's going on over there? So that's my whole thing, is that like women, they don't have any stake. They're never going to be forced. And so
I have a little pushback for that. So would you think that this is a bad for you, right? We're not talking about my opinions. We're not talking about just you, right? Because I'm here to actually change your mind. I'm not here to change the audience minds. I know usually in debates, I want to get up to change the fence sitter's mind at home, but no, actually, seriously, for once, I'm here to actually change your mind a little bit, Petros, and make you see, maybe from my perception a little bit. Would this be a net negative to you? If I told Anna Kasparian, hey, listen, I know that you have an opinion on the war of Gaza. I know already you don't want to have kids. I can't change your mind with that. But I think that you're totally wrong on your opinion with the war of Gaza. I think you're totally wrong with this other political opinion. And I go on World War debate and I wreck the shit out of her, right? I go on stage and I dog walk Anna Kasparian. Do you think that me destroying her ideological position could help somebody at home?
As far as what? As far as their opinion about the war in Gaza?
No, as far as like, so she has an ideological position. I have an ideological opinion or position. And this is coming from another woman who doesn't want to have kids or any of this other stuff. So we could throw the relationship stuff out of there. But she is influential. She's got, I don't know how many subscribers, but she's got a shit ton of followers already that are at her beck and call, subscribe. As soon as she goes live, they tune in and listen to her, what she says with her ranting and all this. And I go to World War debate and I dog walk Anna Kasparian on these political ideological position that she has. And next thing you know, she loses 25% of her base. Do you think I was effective at all in doing this? Do you think that would have been a net positive for me pushing back against her own opinion, even though it has nothing to do with relationships or any of this other stuff? Do you think that that was a net positive if that was done?
After you answer the question, Aftermath, I will ask you both a question. So just letting you know.
Honestly, I don't know if it would be because again, okay, so you destroy her on her takes on what's going on in the Middle East.
Yep.
My question would be, okay, well, so what? So what? Because again, because I said that I don't care about what her opinions are. I want to know how Anna Kasparian feels about the birth rate crisis. I want to know what Anna Kasparian thinks about the duties that women have. Now, hang on. If you were to debate
that's a lot
Anna
of care.
Kasparian,
that's a lot of care.
Hang on a minute.
But go ahead.
If you were to go and debate Anna Kasparian on the birth rate crisis, on the fact that women don't have any duties in society, and you were to press her and get her to admit that, yeah, women don't have any single duties and it's absolute BS, and you were to convince her that, like, look, if women should be allowed to vote, then they need to have some stake in the game. They need to have some obligations. They need to have some duties. They need to, actually have some respect, because Anna Kasparian does not respect men. She doesn't respect men.
No,
I
agree with
you.
The value. I totally agree.
If in that scenario you were to destroy Anna Kasparian on one of those issues, I would say yes, that is a net positive. However, if you were to go debate her on the war in the Middle East and you crushed her and everybody said that, yeah, Martae absolutely destroyed her, I would still say, okay, great, she lost some subscribers, but I don't think that in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that was necessarily a net positive.
So this is why I think it's a net positive. Real quick, I know, Emmett, I'll wrap this up real quick. This is why I think it's a net positive. I think that if you're debating a woman that won't budge on the birth rate crisis, if you're debating a woman that won't budge when it comes to family values, we already know that she's probably going to be like a quartz rock hard stone mountain that won't move, right? But if I can get her to be destroyed on other issues, I now have found a chink in her armor, and everybody else will know that the queen, according to her own right, can now bleed. And now that when I expose this woman can now bleed, now they can then see a loophole and attack her on these other issues that are tangential to the issue with Israel, Gaza, because this all affects women out there in that country. And then they can say that now that I've seen that this woman can bleed, let's now get her, because now she's kind of, not on sturdy ground because Martae rocked her on this issue. Now they can see that, hey, he set an example for me to rock her on this issue. Let me hit her on these issues. But unless you get her to meet in the middle to where you can get this woman to budge, you're never going to move her on family values or anything like that, unless you can show her a defeater where men can come in and destroy her ideological values, because then we can start playing this game of Jenga where we're pulling all these wooden staples of foundation out of it to where everything else on Anna Kasparian can topple, but you have to start somewhere. And that's just my last take.
Okay. Before the only thing I was gonna ask is, we're already a little bit past the 1 hour mark. I was gonna ask you if you want to keep on for another 30 minutes, or if you want to go to closing statements. This is on your end. I don't know what is your schedule.
We can have some closing statements, and we can have like kind of a borderline banter about this for a little bit, but I'll let Petra.
Would you have a question, Emmett? Didn't you say you had a question?
Yeah.
Yes, the question was if you want to continue for another 30 minutes, or if you want to go to closing statements. That is the. Yeah,
I'm fine with leaving there. I think it was a really a good exchange. So yeah, we can go to closing.
For closing, you go first, Martae, and then it would be Aftermath in his final words of this. So whenever you're ready, Martae.
So I think that if we aren't like facing feminism and we're refusing to face feminism, we're allowing feminism to run rampant. Because if there's Anna Kasparian and we see her and we're not challenging her and she's going to meet us in some arena and we're not challenging her, she allows to reign unchallenged, meaning like she never gets pushed back, because we already know she's not going to budge when it comes to female issues, when it comes to feminism, when it comes to subordinating her husband or any of these other issues. But if she allows us to meet her on one arena, whether it be politics or anything like that, and we care enough about this woman's opinion to leave her open enough to be attacked and thwart her whole agenda with her microphone, now is in shambles because we've now shown that she has a chink in her armor. And I think that men generally have to care. Like I said, you wanted to make a move towards I would say orthodoxy. And I think that the Theotokos, when we pray to Mother Mary, we're asking her, metaphorically asking for her opinion to intercede on our behalf. And that's outside of politics and relationships. Now, you're going to have more Anacasparians out there that are going to be weaponized. Now, and here's the thing, though, when you say losing some subscribers, I think it would be more than some, because I don't know how many followers that she has, but I guarantee you that it's more than me and Amit's and yours combined, for sure. Now, I think that if we have one person unfollow Anna Kasparian, I think that's a major win. One is one too many that follows her. Now, if I can get somebody else to budge from following her and unsubscribe, I've done my duty for the day. But I think that men as a whole, we should care enough to battle feminists wherever they are. Even if it's a feminist that wants to battle you on something that's non-relational to like relationships and all these other issues, because I think that they should be attacked relentlessly, feverishly on all fronts if they're open to it. Because let's face it, to be honest with you, Petros, these women are cowards. They're like, I'm just calling them coward because they want to be boss babes. They might as well be conflated with men. They're cowards, right? So they won't meet us. Yeah. But if we can get them to meet us on any arena, we could destroy them ideologically. That's a net positive, bro. And I think that that's good because they won't meet us on positions that they're never going to budge on. So why don't we meet them in the middle on positions that they will be open to and thoroughly destroy them? I mean, not just destroy them, thrash them thoroughly. I think that they need this, and it's good medicine that's going to heal the nation. If we destroy them, that's how we could tackle other issues like immigration and everything else, because they're the ones voting this in. And if we can tackle them and destroy them all these beliefs, they're going to go home questioning all this. And if we can have them question this, guess what? We leave a space that can be filled with Christ or something else. And I'll just end my time there.
Okay. Am I good to go?
Yes, my apologies. Right, I was trying to unmute my microphone, but yeah, you can go now.
So for my closing, I'll say this. I'll start off by saying, because Martae did bring up, Orthodox Christianity and, the Bible. I will say that in the Bible, it does say that like women in the church need to cover their heads, sit in the back of the church, be quiet and listen. I just want to put that out there. Okay. So my closing, I would say, I think that, and I could see some of Martae's points in his closing. I can see that, but I personally think that it would be much more impactful if right-wing guys, because the women on the left they're far gone. I mean, they are so far gone. Although I think for some of them, I think some of them can be saved. But as far as, in the beginning of this, exchange, we talked about kind of like having unity among like conservatives and the right wing and like, the Christian advocates. I think that we would make much more of an impact if we constantly hold these women, not necessarily Anna Kasparian, because Anna Kasparian is not on our side. Anna Kasparian is an atheist, secularist, left wing. Even though she says she's independent, she's still a leftist. I think that we have a duty as far as, Christian men, conservative, right wingers. I think that we have a duty, and I think that we would actually have much more of an impact if we hold these women's feet to the fire, as far as the ones who claim that they're conservative, claim that they're all about Christian values. If we constantly hold their feet to the fire and say, listen, you keep saying this, but I'm seeing you do this. Because in my opinion, a lot of these women, and I think I might have said this earlier, I can't remember, but in my opinion, you see a lot of these Christian influencers online. To me, there's a lot of compensation going on. And what I mean by that is these women, they will do everything in their power to avoid talking about the duties of women, and particularly of Christian women, and whether or not they have a duty to actually submit to their husband, to prioritize marriage and children. I think that we would get a lot farther and make much more of an impact if we continue to hold these women to the fire and get them on track and say, hey, listen, I'm glad that you have an opinion about the war in Gaza, but what is your opinion about women having some duties in society? Do women have duties in society? Does a Christian woman have a duty to submit to her husband? Does she have a duty to give her husband as many children as she can and continue to get them off track? Because you know as well as I do, women will do everything in their power when they don't want to talk about something. They will do everything in their power to defer, deflect, obfuscate. And I think that we have a duty to get these women on track. And listen, you say that you're a Christian conservative and you advocate for this. Why aren't you talking about the birth rate crisis? Why aren't you telling these young women that they need to start prioritizing marriage, prioritizing child rearing at 22, as opposed to chasing a career and trying to find a man at 32? Because that's all I hear from these Christian conservative women is they'll talk about schmortion all day long. They'll talk about how, you know, God is great, Jesus is great, you need to follow Jesus, but they'll never talk about whether or not they need to submit to their husbands. They'll never talk about, hey, ladies, you need to prioritize child rearing. Because in my opinion, a lot of these Christian influencers, and I'll kind of end it on this. In my opinion, a lot of these Christian influencers, they're doing a lot more harm than good. Because what's going on, and you can see this on Twitter, you'll see like these major influencers, like women that have like this big following, like, you know, Candace being one, right? Candace will claim that she's a Christian and conservative. So young girls, and there's like multiple young females that I follow on Twitter. They see these girls, right? They see these women, like younger, like teenage, younger, early 20s, right? They see these girls like Candace and what's the other one, Leela Rose or whatever, and maybe they grew up in a Christian household and they do identify as conservative and they're right wing, right? And they see these women and they go, yeah, that's what I want to do. Yeah, because look, she's a Christian, she's doing her thing, she's spreading the word of Jesus, so I'm going to do that. So what ends up happening is they start to they start to go down the influencer career. They want to build their brand, they want to grow their YouTube channel, they want to be like Candace, they want to be like I don't know, Brett Cooper, or they want to build a following. And what ends up happening is they waste those years, those fertile years, when they should be looking for a husband, to pursue a career as an influencer, to pursue a career as a Christian conservative influencer. And then they end up being a 30-something-year-old and going, oh, wait, well, I have this big following now, but I don't have a man, I don't have kids. And I think that that's much more harmful to society than than us saying like, hey, that's great that you want to be influencer. I'm glad that you want to spread the word of Christianity. And also, you as a woman, you're not actually even supposed to be talking about it. You're not supposed to be. You don't have the right as a Christian to go and lecture people about Christianity. You want to be a good Christian woman? Get off the internet, get offline, delete your accounts, go find a man, start having kids. I think that that's what we as Christian men need to start doing, and holding these women to holding their feet to the fire. And with that, I'll end it.
Okay, thank you so much. That 5 minutes had ended just a second ago. So yeah, the chat's been entertained. I will say that, or a lot of different moments. I don't. There are a couple things here. I think most of it, like, I think one of my pushbacks would be, I don't care what most people have to say, to be honest. So it's not about a woman or a man. It's about the ideological idea will probably be more important to me than like who is talking, more than if it's more than their gender.
Yeah,
It's usually
I
what
can
I would
agree.
say. For example, I tend to talk. I can give you an example. There was a guy who told me that I wasn't a very good Christian, and I just answered, "Well, you're not a very good atheist." And when he said, "I don't care," I was like, "Well, there you go, your answer, right?" And I don't care either. So, and that is like the whole thing. I think we put too much emphasis on the sex, more on the actual ideas of what we're supposed to be following. I don't know. I don't know what you think about that, Aftermath.
Well, do women? I mean, okay, you're a Christian, right, Emmett?
I am a
You
Christian.
you,
Yeah.
you advocate for Christian ethics.
Yes.
Are there within the Christian paradigm, are there gender specific roles that men and women have? Gender specific.
Yes.
Okay, so the problem that I see is that women want to, like Christian conservative women, they don't want to acknowledge, from what I can tell, they don't want to acknowledge the fact that they'll be very gender neutral when it comes to the duties of Christians, right? They'll be very gender specific, gender neutral about it. But I don't see them.
Well, they can be very gender neutral because a lot of the
But
things
that's the
that you
problem.
have
That's the
are
problem, though. In my opinion, that's the
well.
problem. Is that if you're not going to acknowledge that within Christianity there are gender specific roles that men and
Yeah.
women have, and if you're
Okay.
not advocating for that, that's a problem.
When we're talking about the ethics, because at the end of the day, is what is good, right? If you see a woman and she is not married, is it good that she doesn't have kids?
Is she a Christian woman?
It's a Christian woman. She has no kids. Is it good that she has no kids because she's not married?
How old is she?
Let's say 30.
Yeah, I think it's bad. Well, I mean,
think
I
it's
would want to
good. Why
know.
would it be bad? What if she had kids and then don't have a family? Wouldn't that be worse?
What do you mean? Say that again?
Yeah. Okay, let's say there's a 30-year-old woman. She's not married, has no kids. Is the fact that she has no kids bad?
I would say yeah, it's bad because it's. I
So
would want to
every
know.
okay, so
I would
every
wanna
nun
know-
ever is bad, right?
None.
Yeah, the nuns that go ahead and say, "We're gonna
Well,
go
you
ahead
didn't
and
say
give us
none
my
though.
life."
You said. Well, hang on.
Are
You
they
didn't say
women?
none.
Are they women?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they decide to have no kids, and they can be
Yeah, but
30
that's
years old.
that's the Catholic. I mean, that's a specific. Like you said, you framed it as like just an average Christian woman. Like a nun,
No,
that's a little bit.
I'm asking. It's a totality, right? What I'm saying and what I'm looking at is, if we go through, you are focusing too much on just the gender and not on the actual problems in the societal structure. You can go ahead and say, I don't care about a feminist telling a man how men should act, for example. And I don't have a problem with that. But I would have way more of leniency and care if my wife, God willing, I go on, uh, tells me, hey, you probably should do X thing for me, or you probably should go to church, for example, or you probably should do whatever. Because at that point, my wife, which is part of my family, not only I have a responsibility towards her, but I also have a duty to her to even listen to her. I have the duty to listen to my wife.
Well, hold on. If I can interject a little bit too. I think we have to care about the opinions of like the Anarchasperians and everybody else like that, because if I have children, I'm probably going to have daughters. Let's be honest, because I have to have workout and train to have boys that beat up that want to date my daughter, right? So I want to be able to curate a future and create this and combat feminism so that way they can have a more sustainable future of not being subjected to the propagandization by feminists and everything else like that. Therefore, I must fight feminists on all fronts, not just feminism in my home, but feminism outside of this when it doesn't even comport with relationships or anything else like this. Feminism in the workforce, feminism in the military, everything like that. If I fight feminism on all fronts, then I've done my job for the day, so that way my daughters can say my dad at least tried to pave the way for less that they have to be subjugated to as far as indoctrination, propagandization, and all that. But I think here's the thing though, we have to care enough about these women's opinions to combat them and fight them in the trenches, as I do, as Aftermath does. I've seen Emmett fight feminism through libertarianism. Like these libertarians, they're borderline feminists. If you talk about this, like if you're talking about covert feminists, like they're real feminists through and through, believe it or not, because feminism is indecisive to begin with. It sways with whatever is cool at the moment. And if you think about this, the better we fight this and the more that we care about these opinions, I think that we'll be better as a nation, because we have to care. We care about what our wives think, what our children think, what our kids think, all them. And women are included with that. They have to be included because you can't separate the two. We have to care enough to be in this fight to fight feminism all over.
Yeah, part of my apologies. I will let you go in a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
What the whole point of what you're saying is pretty much, besides the system that we live now, because they have a vote and they are outside in society, and we do have to contend with their ideas. So for me, the ethic part is way more interesting and way more important than the gender part. You're duty bound through the ethical part, and we can talk about the different ethical duties that you have as a man and as a woman. But if I say, well, I don't give a shit what you have to say, woman, because you have vagina, that is like, how can you even start a conversation about what kind of duty people have when you start with
like
that?
I said, I care about what women's opinions are when it comes to feminism, when it comes to the duties that women have in society. These things I care about. I don't care what a woman's opinion is about the war in the Middle East. That's just my personal thing. Like I don't care. But to ask you, Emmett, you're a Christian. Does a woman have a duty to submit to her husband?
Um, yeah, the woman has a duty to submit to her husband,
Okay. And
and the
so
husband
does
has a
a
duty. The husband has a duty to care for his wife, right?
well, sure, yeah, a husband has a duty to protect his wife, but a husband doesn't have a duty to submit to his wife, right?
No, it's not to submit, to care for the wife. What happens if there, do you realize that there are ways in the church that that a woman can actually um say that the husband is not acting in accordance to his duty, right?
What do you mean?
Would that be not
Say that.
submitting? Let's say that I'm a husband and I start taking drugs instead of doing my
Uh-huh.
duty to my family.
Oh,
I
okay.
am
I
not
see what you
doing
mean. Yeah.
that. That should the wife in that case submit to me no matter what, or does the wife has a way through the
Yeah.
church
So,
to put
mhm.
me into, to talk, for example, to an authority and be like, this person is not acting in accordance to what he's supposed
Yeah.
to do?
To answer that, yeah, if a husband is not living up to his duties, meaning that he's not providing, he's not protecting, if he's out like hooking up with prostitutes and strippers every day, he's on drugs, if he's like physically abusing the wife, the husband, the wife, the children, then yeah, she absolutely, and even within Christianity, there are grounds for
Yeah, yeah,
divorce. There absolutely are.
I
But
agree.
yeah, sure,
but
sure,
but if
yeah.
you ask me, if you ask me, well, should she submit? I agree that she should in accordance to
uh
the ethical standard. Okay, but the husband has responsibilities so that she would
Well, yeah,
also
I'm not
be in
arguing that.
accordance too.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
arguing that.
How, if she's just supposed to submit and she has no recourse because she's just supposed to submit to the husband, how is she even able to go to the priest and say, hey, my husband is
Well,
acting
what
this
I mean
way?
by okay, so the submit the a lot of people kind of get it's a bit of a trigger word, and I'll admit that when I say submit, when I say a wife is supposed to submit to her husband within Christianity, what I mean by that is the woman is supposed to recognize that the husband is the head of the household. And what I mean by submit is that the woman is supposed to let the husband lead. He is supposed to submit the leadership role, the leadership duty to the husband and follow the husband and be act more of a as a support role to the husband, meaning that it's she's not supposed to like constantly be like being combative with the man, trying to like undermine him, trying to um you know
Yeah, I agree with
go
you on that
against his
regard.
opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that regard. I think it's a synergistic, and it's a synergistic form. So
Mhm.
the woman is helping the man, and the man is protecting the woman, or they are
Well,
together. They're in this
she's
together,
letting
as they say.
he's letting him lead. That's what I mean by submit. She's letting him lead, and in
Mhm.
exchange, she is submitting to him by letting him lead. And
Yeah.
in exchange, the husband is providing protection, resources, right? All this kind of stuff.
Well, it's more than that, just that, because there are in betweens. Like, there are cases specifically, like, let's say that a couple get married, and the husband suffers a grave accident and he's not able to
Mhm.
provide. Does that give grounds for divorce?
No,
No, it doesn't,
no, because
because at the end of the
they're sick.
day is,
Well, because you made a vow. You
yeah,
made a
it is a
vow
vow.
in sickness and in health, till
Mhm.
death to us part.
So I
Right.
I,
It,
So
I do
it
want to
would
say
also it
something
would
though.
also
Well, if you think about this, the wife is also submitting to the husband, to Christ through the husband, right? So in
Right.
the end, if we have to think about this, like it's Christ through the husband, it's not the husband doing all this. He has to be following Christ. So I have a duty to Christ.
Well, sure.
There's a hierarchical nature. So this is the thing that I'm getting to. In the end, men should care because in the end, men have to answer for her in front of God in Christ. Since we have to answer for our wives' actions, and if like we have to become the people that lead our wife to salvation and help her lead. So we have to care about a woman's opinion because in the end, we're going to be responsible because in the garden, God didn't ask for her, right? He said, Adam, where are you? He said, where are you? You know, and he was like, oh, I'm right here. Even though it was her fault, she did this. We're responsible for her opinions, her actions, and everything she does. In the end, it's the same thing. We have to answer for our wives' actions and everything else like this. So part and parcel, we have to care about a woman's opinion because she's going to be the matron of her daughters, of her sons, and all that.
So I feel like we're talking past each other a little bit. And so I want to clarify something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where within the confines of a marriage, and more specifically a Christian marriage, right? Even I guess a secular marriage. I'm not saying that a husband needs to, as soon as his wife starts like, talking about her opinion about whatever, that he's supposed to immediately go, hey, shut up, woman, go bring me a sandwich. I'm not saying that. If my wife has an opinion about something, I'm going to listen to my wife. I'll listen to what she has to say, depending on what we're talking about, right? I mean, everything is circumstantial, right? And I'm not saying that as a man you're supposed to just completely brush off, whatever your wife is saying, whatever your daughter's saying. I was, this whole thing was specifically talking about when we're talking about the online like influencer sphere, as far as like the debate world, right? And even to a certain degree in like the real world. Like, for example, I'll listen to what my wife has to say. Like if my wife has a very strong opinion about, whatever's going on in the Middle East or maybe the economy, I'll listen to what my wife has to say. And if I agree with her, I agree with her. Great. But if I don't agree with her, I'm going to be like, well, okay, honey, well, I have enough respect for my wife to be like, hey, honey, like, okay, I don't necessarily agree with you. Here's why I don't agree with you. And if she doesn't like it, then okay, I'm not just going to change my opinion on that particular issue just to, please my wife, right? So I'm not saying don't listen to don't ever listen to anything your wife has to say because she's just supposed to shut up and, go make you a sandwich. I'm just saying that like there's certain things that I don't even think it's women's women have a place to even talk about certain things, like all the stuff that I mentioned about, right? Especially when we're talking about women who are online, they have this massive following. And I mean, a perfect example, Candace Owens, right? Candace Owens has, for the past 10 years, she has built an empire, basically, right? She has a massive following. And she is this self-identifying as this, well, she's Catholic now, but I mean, this Christian conservative woman. And we all kind of see what happened with her. I mean, she's lost her mind. She's absolutely lost her mind, right? And she's God only knows, like, what's going on with her. But now we have this woman now. She has this massive following, and people are listening to her. You know what I mean? Like, there's women that are actually listening to her. They're eating up everything that she's saying, right? Yep. So is that a net positive? Is that a net positive?
We have to care enough to be able to combat this and fight this in mass. Matter of fact, Jay Dyer has produced videos saying how delusional she is. He cares enough to actually give her reality and the truth and everything else. I'm pretty sure Emmett's got an opinion about this too. So do you. So when we're talking about our Candace Owens and people,
I got my own dreams
on the left, this happens all the time, but we care enough.
You're a time traveler, aren't you, Emmett?
Yes, in fact, I got it yesterday. I realized that I had a dream when Charlie came to me and gave me
oh my gosh,
a couple of pointers. And when I didn't believe it, then Candace came to me in another dream and said that it was true, and I knew that I was going to have this debate. So
well, we care enough to combat this with reality, right? We have to care. Yeah, but there's no way we can avoid it, bro. So, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it's again like like, for example, like if we're talking about like as far as Candace, then yes, we as Christian, you know, if you're a Christian, you're conservative, right? You want to advocate for the truth, right? We're like this. We want to like Christianity is about truth, right? It's about finding the truth. So yeah, in this particular situation with Candace, yes, I would say that we have a duty to call out her bullshit. We have a duty to say we have to, and yes, I will concede we have to care enough to be like,
Yeah.
Candace, you need to shut the F up, go away, because you are completely destroying this whole like conservative, like right wing thing. You need to stop. You need to just be quiet, go away.
Right. Hold that thought for just 1 second. Emmett, I just want to say one thing real quick. You know what you just said right now? You said we have to care about her. Now, Candace may be producing other Candaces out there who are mirroring and even using her as a reference point. We also have to combat this in mass as well, too. The people who are look up to her. I think it's not just a Candace thing. I think it's the followers in this whole notion of like, okay, we see this in comment sections and all this. I think that if we can combat this, we have to care more than just Candace. You would agree on that, right? That's all I wanted to say. That's it.
I have a question from Chad that I thought it was relevant. This is by Abin. So is it wrong for the wife to make videos complain about her husband aftermath?
Is it wrong for a wife to make videos complaining about her husband?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, generally, I would want to know, again, you have to be a little bit more specific. Like, what are we complaining about? Because I see a lot of the times online, women getting online and completely humiliating and embarrassing their husbands over just totally inane and just things that have nothing. It's just like, oh, my husband doesn't pick up after himself. It's like, okay, well, that's every guy. You know what I mean? It's like, now if your husband is beating you mercilessly every day, then sure, the woman has to be like, hey, look at this black eye I just got. I think, yeah. So I mean, but it's like if your whole point is just to get online and try to belittle and humiliate your husband, I don't think that's okay. And the other thing I'll add to that is there's this double standard when it comes to this, right? There's this massive double standard that I have a problem with, where it seems to be totally fine for women to get online, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, whatever, Instagram, get online and completely belittle, degrade and belittle and humiliate and embarrass their husbands over just like really, just like trivial things, minute things. And that's totally fine. But for whatever reason, it's not okay for husbands to get on and do the same thing. So I have a huge problem with that. So that would be my answer to that. What do you think about that, Emmett?
I agree. I agree with the fact that it shouldn't be. It would be a failure on the relationship on the side of the woman specifically doing something like that. You know, they're supposed to be working together towards the family and not antagonizing each other. It doesn't matter if it's online or not. That would be my answer to that. I do think that it's a little bit predatory the way that we have social media instituted, because what it gets is attention, and there's a lot of people that really enjoy attention, like us. That's why we're online.
Well, women in particular. I mean, women
yeah,
are inherently attention seeking, and what I've noticed is that women almost, it's like any attention is good attention, right? Whether any type of attention, it's like, and they'll use anything, whether it's their kids, their husbands. It's like, and that's a problem. I mean, that's a problem in our culture today, where, and again, the feminist movement seems to encourage it. They seem to egg it on and say, yeah, girl, you get on there and you talk shit about your husband and you embarrass him.
I would agree, but the problem, the problem once again is the action, right? This is what I'm saying. It's not the woman part that's the problem. It's the action towards what they're doing online. I don't have a problem with a woman having a channel and showing how to cook or doing any kind of thing that she wants to do with her channel. I don't have a problem with that. The problem would be she going online and complaining about her husband in a way that is untowards. It would be, I would have a problem with a man going online and complaining about the wife in a way that's untowards. Just like I have a problem with a guy being a complete heretical online, right? I have the same kind of problems. It's the action, the ethical purview, which I have a problem with.
Yeah, I mean, but you also do acknowledge though, right, that there does seem to be this double standard, right, where it's like it seems to be totally
Mhm.
fine for women to get online and just talk crap about their husbands or just men in general, right? I mean, it's you see it like every day. Every day, it's like you
Yeah,
get
I
online and there's
agree.
like
I agree that we have a problem when it comes to the way, but this is this I will reject the idea that the way that we combat it is by using the rhetoric. The rhetoric of them is being men versus women instead of ethical issues between one another. If you want to have an actual possibility to get to the point in which the problem is the ethical action, you have to get rid of the sex in the part of the equation. You have to be able to give them, men and women, the capacity of being moral agents. So
but yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
so that's the point. The point is both men and women can act in ways that are towards their ontological differences, mostly towards reproduction. But they can, women and men can be complete degenerate fucks, and it doesn't need, it doesn't have to do with that necessarily. The problem will be the action they're doing, not the, yeah, that will be the problem.
Yeah, but I mean, but wouldn't you agree though that one of the ways to start doing that is by men and hopefully women too, right? I mean, calling out the fact that there does seem to be this huge double standard where it's like women can get online and talk all kinds of crap about men, but it's like as soon as men start doing it, then now it's a huge problem, and now we have like this
Yeah.
huge, this huge thing. Like, I mean, we
But
need
you
to at
have to
some point, like,
care. You do have to care,
well, sure,
especially if
yeah, but
that's the
that's what,
case.
yeah,
And the way
well, that's
you
Yeah.
combat it is by acting, by acting. There's a lot of, for example, I have a big problem with people use Christianity against me when it comes to how I talk to people, right? I'm the other mean guy on the internet, and what happens is people will go ahead and be like, "Hey, you're mean. You don't give us grace. You attack us. You do X, Y, Z," and they bring first off, I'm not going to talk scripture because like I don't want to, but they will bring like, oh, this is not Christian, for example, right? And I have a way of talking to Christians that is way more charitable than if you're not, and it has to do with the way that we have the prescription of how to treat people. I have way more charitability towards Christians than I have to people that are not. If you're an atheist and you come to me and you're like, you're completely retarded, I will be like, well, you're more.
I can attest to that because
Well,
Emmett is way more mean than I am. Emmett, you'll even admit this. I'm way more of a charitable, nicer person than you are. But here's the thing, though. When Emmett does call people retarded and all this, it's not like they didn't earn this. Like your exchange with the donkey puller. Like we had this exchange recently, and it was with a Muslim person. But a lot of the ideology, here's what Emmett does. Emmett isn't calling the person personally retarded like they're, what they are, maybe in a sense. He's basically talking about their ideological stance, their position of them as a whole. So when Emmett does this, he's pretty ruthless compared to me. I'm very benevolent, so I will actually admit and support his whole stance, believe it or not, because he's way more harsh than I am. And that's
and I would do it.
Chad will probably agree with him on that too.
Yeah, and I would do it to men as I will do it to women. If I see a woman doing horrible things to a dude, for example, making them, just to bring up a relevant example that was brought up to light not long ago. If a woman would go and take a mentally ill guy and make him sleep on the floor and take money from that guy and do all kinds of untoward shit towards him, and then you call her a retarded person for doing that, like you're horrible for doing that, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's perfectly understandable and it's perfectly fine. And if people get like offended because you're not nice, it's that is how you actually combat it. You have to bring it to the front and be able to tell them, hey, this is it. And for that you have to care. There's no way that you can just one of the reasons why we are in the predicament we are is because there is a lot of indifference towards especially men, but also towards women. So we have to actually make care about them and understand what they're saying so that we are able to destroy their position if necessary or bring them into the flock.
And Emmett brings up a really good point. I'm just going to piggyback on that real quick. And the moment I brought up indifference, there's a reason why I brought that up. And Emmett, let me steelman his position a little bit and tell me if I'm wrong, Emmett. Indifference is why we ended up in this position to begin with, because indifference has Indifference enables allowance. And when we don't care, we just allow things to run amok. We didn't care enough to follow Eve maybe and watch her and just keep a vigil. Guess what happened? Indifference. She bit the fruit. Now all of a sudden everybody's doomed and men's days were numbered. So if you think about this, it's like we shouldn't be indifferent, because that's really truly not what caring is. I think that we do have to care enough to care about our daughter's future to combat this. We're in the trenches for a reason, because we care. To be honest with you, Aftermath, I think you care. I think Emmett cares. I think I care, even about nonsensical stuff, because in order for us to fight, there has to be some care enough to fight. Because if it was just about relationship stuff and that's the only thing we cared about, a lot of your opening statement and closing statement was about the BS that you didn't want to hear, which means you cared enough about this. So get in the fight and combat this with me, bro. Let's be brothers and fight in the trenches about these dumb opinions that they have and correct it with the truth. I think that that's good, and I think that we should be able to care.
Yeah, so you said something like these dumb opinions. So again, because I see the comments, right? I mean, I see the comments and it's like, look, I care about women. Okay, I care about women. I care about my wife. I care about my daughter. I care about my mom. Right? I care about women in general. Right? But I care about them from like a Christian perspective, as opposed to like a secularist perspective, where, you know, because the secularist looks at women like they're exactly the same as men, and I don't do that, because I recognize that there's differences between men and women. So I care about women's the well-being of women, right? I care about that. I'm not saying I don't care. The whole point with all of this was that I think that we need to I think that it's going to be, because I hear what you're saying, Martae, I hear what you're saying, Emmett, but still though, the thing is, I think that we need to direct women, right? Because it's our job, it's our duty as men, right, as Christian men, to direct women, right? At the end of the day, we have to be the leaders, because women can't lead. They're too caught up with their emotions and all this stuff.
I agree.
Well,
Right? It's our job. It's our job to, and I want to know what you guys think. It's our job to direct women in the right, get them on the right track. So yes, I care what women think, but I care what they think about certain trying to figure out how I want to word this. I want women to care about, I want to know the opinions of women when it comes to all the stuff that we talked about, right? Like, so I think it's our job to put them on the right track. And listen, that's great that you have an opinion about like all this other stuff, right? Like the politics and the war, but it's like, it's really not your place. Like, I want to know, like, you need to like get more familiar. Like, you need to start go and read Rachel Wilson's book about feminism. Go and start like really thinking about, you know, what duties do women have, or what duties should women have in society, and start talking about that. Start formulating, start really focusing on these particular, like this set of issues. Like, don't worry so much about what's going on in the Middle East. That's the job of men. There are plenty of commentators out there talking about what's going on in the Middle East, talking about you know, the Jays and all that stuff, talking about Venezuela, talking about the economy. That's really nice that you have an opinion about that. And, you know, like, for example, if it's my wife or something, sure, if you feel passionately about something, I'll listen to your opinion. That's great. But you would do much better if you just kind of focus on these things here. Focus on the duties of women. Focus on, you know, trying to advocate that women start prioritizing marriage and children as opposed to careers.
So,
go ahead, Martae.
So here's the thing I wanted to interject real quick and say this. So in your whole statement that you just uttered right now, I think that you do care, and I think we do have to care, because if you're telling them to read Rachel Wilson's book,
I do care. I keep saying that. Like,
right. But this is the thing I want to say, because I know that you say it's not in their place to do this, but Emmett would even agree with me on this, and everybody else would agree with me on this, that it is true that they do vote right now. And until that changes, we do have to try to influence and care about how they're voting, because when you say that they don't, we shouldn't care about their opinions about Israel, they're literally going to the voting booth and voting block and voting in regards to Israel and everything else by proxy. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we do have to care, because they are a big barge of the blue vote. And we have to fight this blue wave that tries to hit and infiltrate every year by trying to change their opinions, by debunking their lies and their ideological positions and all this, I think we do have to care, because as long as they could go to the voting block and vote to delete our babies and do all this, I think that we have to care, because we have to be in these trenches and fight till the day we die for our daughter's sake and our son's sake. And to me, these sewing circle Christians get on Twitter all the time, berate their husbands and do all this. I think that we should fight those women too, and more. There's so much that we have to fight. It's ridiculous. Matter of fact, there's infinite opposition out there. I want you to help join the fight with me, with Emmett and everybody else, and fight feminism on all fronts, whether or not it's about the Jays, stay-at-home husbands that they want to promote, and all boss babes and all this. Fight on all fronts. Anywhere that you could find feminism, fight this. And if you're only isolating this to only fighting them in relationships, you're really limiting the potential in the ability for you to fight on our behalf as well too, and for your children's children in their future and all that too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
go
just
ahead. A second, real quick. Thank you so much, Kukomo, for the dono, and thank you so much. You're gay for the dono as well. Thank you so much for the 20 in total. You guys are awesome. I will. I think I understand when, for example, what he says is correct. I think it's pretty correct, that the idea that right now it's an is-ought problem, right? We have an is-ought in a sense. So
yeah,
sometimes we're gonna have a differences in the reality you live in and the idealism of you live in. Would it be ideal that women were perfectly fine with you deciding what is going to be the course of the war in Gaza? Maybe, but if you have a bunch of women that exist, and all they're thinking about is how the Jays are so mean, and now they're going to go ahead and all of them vote in mass for Kamala Harris, you have a problem there, and you need to be able to actually engage with whatever their ideas are, so you can have a proper understanding. The other, if not, the other problem that we can see is, if not, is they're not moral agents. So you have to treat them as if they were kids, and if that is the case, then you have a bunch of kids voting, and that's not going to be correct, or that's not going to be good. And I don't think that is the case. You need to be able to think of women as being capable of doing good and evil, because otherwise they're,
So I'm glad both of you guys brought up the is-ought dilemma as far as like women being able to vote. Do you guys think that because yeah, you're absolutely 100% correct. It is a matter of fact that right now women do have the right to vote, and they can vote to send us off to war, to go and get unalived and get our limbs blown off. However, if we want to talk about the fight, right? If we want to talk about the duties, do we not also then have a duty to start like really like hardcore advocating to appeal the 19th Amendment? Do we not have a duty to start telling, and we have to start with the right-wing women, right? We have to get the women on our side, in my opinion. We have to get these Christian women, because if you go ask the average conservative online woman and you tell them, hey, I don't think women should vote, I mean, it's gonna be an all-out war, because women, generally speaking, I mean, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, I totally agree that women shouldn't vote, because a lot of them, like I said, they're covert feminists. Do we not have a duty as men, as Christian men, if we want to advocate for Christian ethics, a Christian society, a Christian, Christian populist society? Do we not have a duty to also? Isn't that fight supposed to include us trying to convince, the women that are supposedly on our side, like, hey, we love you guys. Well, we do care about. Well, hang on, let me get my point out.
Go.
We do care about you. We do care about you. But here's the problem with women voting. Here's what ends up happening. Do we not have a duty to tell these women, to try to convince them and get them to agree that, something? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Women shouldn't vote, because as you know, I'm not sure how familiar you are, Emmett, but Martae, I'm sure you know that the only reason when the 19th was passed, the majority of women, right, and this is all in Rachel Wilson's book, the majority of women voted against the right for women to vote. They voted against it.
Sure.
Women did not want the right to vote because they understood what it meant. So do we not have a duty as men to start telling these women, like, listen, I know what you think about, women voting, but here's the reality of it. Here's what actually happened. And do we not have a duty to tell them, like, hey, that's
Yeah.
great that you have opinions. I'm glad that you want to advocate for Christianity, but we need to really seriously start pushing women towards this and getting them on our side as far as like trying to appeal the 19th and get them out of the voting block. Go ahead, Martae.
It's true that only 5% of women wanted to vote then. And I understand that they had more power and influence when they were probably like the neutral base as matrons and, home carers and all this other stuff. Like, I get that. So here's the thing that I want to say, though. I understand your whole point. I understand what you're getting at. But I think that we can't ultimately, and here's the whole point, we can't run away from women's opinions, especially if we're fighting this. There is an Izot problem that we're fighting the whole time. Like, I get that is the claim, but here's the thing that I want to say, and I'm pretty sure Emmett would agree with me on this. I don't think that most of these men should be able to vote too, especially the men that don't have a lot of stake in the game, that aren't fighting for nuclear families, that want a red pill run through women and create more hoes in society and create kids that they won't want to take care of too. I don't think that most people should be able to vote, let alone women. So Emmett mentioned something before in the debate where it was like, I think you're kind of making this a sexist thing. I think it should just be the ideological position thing, whether or not it's a man or a woman. I think that most people would agree with me on this. I think men can also be infiltrated by feminists too and have this ideological position as simps. So simps are basically like male pattern feminists, if you think about this, because they're literally like cosplaying as men by being women, by giving them all these monies, by being walking ATM machines. You would even agree with me on this. So I'll end my point in saying this, though. I think in terms of voting, I think that there should be prerequisites, meaning like have you served in your country for 4 years, mandated service? I think that should be a thing too. I think that not only that, but I think that you should vie or at least make moves toward having a nuclear family, adding to the birth rate, all this. There should be some incentive, and voting should be that. Like saying, if you actually vote, you're going to appreciate your vote if you earn the right to vote. But I think that should be the mainstay of our nation, not just we're just going to get votes as soon as you turn this age, we're going to do that. That means that anybody willy-nilly can vote, even if they don't have stake, meaning like you could be a man, a woman. I don't care if you believe that you're a tricycle. If you have stake in the game, you're adding to the birth rate, military conscription, things like this. You own a home, you have some kind of investment in the nation's future. I think that should be the mainstay instead of like, oh, just all women should vote. But I think that should be it.
Yeah, I can definitely. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I would think that we do as Christians we do have to understand that there's a hierarchy that we should follow.
Yes,
and the hierarchy needs to be set up through. I would even go higher than what Martae is saying. Right? For me, the idea of the people who should be voting should be those that are within the church, and the state should have a church that is part of it. This is why I advocate for monarchy, for example, because I don't see that structure as, the king has everything. I see it as the church and the king and everybody else. So we need to be able to take that into account, and having like pure open democracy has been a disaster. We know that it's been horrible for men, it's been horrible for women, and we have to be able to make even those arguments so that men and women from both sides, okay, so we can get rid of this infection that is libertarianism and get actually a society that is running properly, that we can have the good things and we can actually have our way, like a proper way of living. That's the way that I would say it.
Yeah, I can totally agree that I also believe that most men shouldn't be allowed to vote, because I don't think that an 18-year-old who just got out of high school and he just lives in his mom's basement and smokes weed all day I don't think that his vote could cancel the vote of like a 55-year-old engineer or doctor that has been paying taxes and all this stuff. So that I can definitely agree with you guys on. So
well, I would say that I would change that and say that I don't think the person wiping breadcrumbs off his shirt or Cheeto Flicks in his mom's basement should cancel out the person whose vote, a person's vote who actually has 4 children, has a nuclear family,
even that, yeah.
actually produces in society, served 4 years in the military or even 2 years, and actually contributed to some service in production for society's sake, that's what I would change it to. But I think that there should be some standards when it comes to voting, because most people shouldn't be able to vote. The guy that smoked weed and then just lives off of EBT, they shouldn't be able to vote, because all they're going to do is ask for the system that's giving them the handicap that actually we have to pay for year after year, and enabling illegal citizens to come in this country by saying that, oh, we're going to do this to indoctrinate more votes at the voting block and vote a certain way. Because actually, I believe that that's what's happening. These women are voting in a certain way to allow more illegals to come in, and they're going to vote against Trump and against proper Republicans voting for office that are going to vote for more nuclear families and against the Christian agenda. I think that that's the thing that should happen. We should have mandates or some kind of prerequisite or requirement to vote. I think that that should be important first and foremost, not just the gender thing.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, it's the ones that are being, that voting for these things are both men and women. There's a thing that I would like to answer to. It says, if an 18-year-old can die for the country, they can vote. If an 18 is in the military and he is being part of it, I will agree that he has the right to vote.
That's included in what I said. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's part of the service to the country, and I would say that absolutely he has a right to vote.
Yeah, I think that there definitely needs to be, and I mean, this is something that it's a little bit, we're kind of a little bit off topic, but it still kind of pertains. But yeah, I think that there should be, and I'm not even sure what it is. I haven't given it a whole lot of thought, but yeah, there definitely needs to be some for men, specifically, if we're talking about men, like there needs to be some kind of a criteria, whether it is like, hey, you got to at least serve a couple of years in the military, you got to have, maybe be married with like a couple of kids, something. I don't even know what the criteria exactly should be, but there has to be some sort of criteria. So yeah, I can agree.
Service.
Well, let me respond to the chatter a little bit, because they said if an 18-year-old can die. Well, let's go ahead and suss this out, because 18-year-olds can die in the military, but are they actively doing that? Just because you can do this, are you doing this? Because that has to be the mainstay. Like, yes, you're 18 and you can do this, but you're not enlisting, no, you shouldn't vote. If you're 18 and you can do this and you did do this or are actively doing this, yes, you should vote. So let me make this distinction clear too. Make sense? A little bit?
Yeah,
I think
that makes sense.
I think service, the idea of service is the perfect idea. Obviously, right now we don't have that, and there's not going to be, but we should push towards the ideal, right? And we're not going to get there necessarily, especially right now. Right now, what we should push for is the things that we can, and I think alienating people and not being able to actually talk to those people whose vote are going to count at the end of the day is not a good idea. And discounting people because of their gender is not a wise idea either. It's about, for me, it's about the ethics. It's about the
I agree. That was my whole point, Ebbett. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So that is like that's the only thing, right? Because I know people personally who are great people, and they're like, they feel like they're getting shit on all the time just because they're a woman. It's like, well, it's not about that. We're making general ideas most of the time, but it's true that that if we just put it on the shoulders of the woman, and we're not even taking into account the dumb people on the left who are men, they are a lot of them too. So they have the same problems, and it's an ethical problem. It's not it's not a gender problem in my.
Yeah,
so you don't.
In another thing, real quick, before I say this, is like even good examples. We can see them all the time. Like I've debated them all the time. First Amendment being one of them. Like I don't know what his personal life is, but I think that there are people that are like him who have his same beliefs and believe that trans women are women and all this. I think that people, for some reason, love to get wrecked in debates. I think that he may be one of them. I'm not picking on First Amendment. I'm just giving an example. But just think about an army of 50 of them. Sure, it's going to be weak and it's going to be a headache, but we should fight them as well too. So that's why I think when Emmett is talking about it's not just a sexism thing, First Amendment really does exist. So there could be other people just like that exist. We have people, the soy pill being one of the other debaters, and I can name a bunch. Matter of fact, I'll go to Wick's panel and just say the whole panel, and then there's many other people too. So it's like, yeah, oh God, here we go. The First Amendment with the tiara.
Yeah, the tiara. Yeah.
The tiara.
The tiara.
I'm about to throw up right now, Emmett. Emmett, you're about to make me throw up right now. Is that a rat uterus?
It's a rat king. It's a rat queen, obviously, because he has a tiara, and then he has the rat king on the side, giving him smooches. Yeah.
Of course, he would have a rat by him. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, of course. It is what it is.
Emmett, you're wild for that one. That's crazy.
So I guess I want to ask, like, so from what I gather is that you guys aren't opposed to women. Now I understand it is the case that women vote, but you guys aren't opposed to women voting, right?
Nope.
And so then I would want to know though, like, what would be your response to what do we do with the situation? Because yes, it is the case that women can vote, but it also is the case currently that women are excluded from the draft. They're not going to be in the foreseeable future be forced to go and fight in wars. What would you say to that? Like, I mean, how would you combat this issue that we have right now of women being able to vote to send men off to war and fight and get unalived? What would be your response to that? Like, what is that not like an actual
I have a
serious
response.
issue?
So here's the thing though. I want my base stay-at-home wife, because I'm in trade school right now. By the time I graduate, I'm going to make enough for the both of us to where she can have the option of staying at home. Now, guess what the added benefit of this is, Emmett, in the aftermath, is that she's going to vote, and I want her to vote because she's going to vote the way I want her to vote. This isn't some authoritarian scheme, because guarantee you she's going to be orthodox in the church, and if she admires me, looks up to me, and follows Christ through me, she's going to vote the way that I do. And guess what's going to happen? We're going to have progeny, children, maybe some daughters who are probably I'm going to want to vote too. And guess what? If their upbringing is conservative and based through the Christian ethical system of the Orthodox Church, which is the whole one holy apostolic Catholic tradition that we've had for 2,000 years, that means that not only will this tradition be the mainstay at our home, our votes will emulate this as well too. And their kids will vote the same way, and their kids will. But the way that we can vote, change the future, is by changing the way that people vote. And how do we change the way that people can vote? By having kids. Christians are outproducing secularists in mass, which is more people that are going to vote the way that they do, which means that there are going to be women and men voting the same way. The way that we can combat this is producing more voters that vote the same way, and that's the entailment of my position. And that makes sense. I don't know how that doesn't make sense to anybody else, but to me, that makes sense. And that combats the people that do vote in opposition to us.
So yeah, but that still leaves the problem of what we talk. This like crazy. It still leaves the problem of the fact that, yeah, I don't doubt for 1 second that your wife, Martae, is going to vote the way you vote. Okay, I don't doubt that for a second. But again, that still leaves the problem of we have an ever-growing number of single women. The women that they're not married, and chances are they're going to vote left, right? And it also doesn't change the fact that yes, we still have these liberal couples who most likely the husband is going to vote whatever way the wife votes. So we still have that problem.
Hold on. The solution isn't what you just said right now. The women are not having kids, right? Which means that their vote dies with them. If Christians are outproducing these people, we're basically tripling and doubling their vote by the way our kids vote. So if we're outproducing them, and their vote numbers are going to dwindle because they're deleting their babies in mass and producing less secularists and Christians outproduce. Guess what's going to happen in the end? Mathematics is beautiful, baby, which proves God in Christ. And that's what's going to come out on top. The numbers.
Yes. So that, yes, I can concede to that. but if I can just make this point though,
Mhm.
the thing is though, if that's the case, then okay, it's not enough that Martae, who is an Orthodox Christian and he is the head of this household, and his wife submits to him and she is going to vote however Martae votes. That is not enough. I think that we still need to advocate. We still need to get these conservative women who really seem to have, when it comes to prioritizing marriage and children, they still seem to be on more of the feminist mind view of like, hey, no, because Megan Kelly, who is a conservative, a right wing conservative, she has said, uh, stay in studio. She has said overtly that women should prioritize their careers over marriage. Okay, so that's the problem, in my opinion, is that yeah, it doesn't matter that like a handful of Orthodox men are getting their wives to vote the way they do and they're having kids. It's like, no, we need the Megan Kellys and the Candace Owens of the world to start telling these young girls that, like, hey, you need to start prioritizing marriage and start having kids, not just one or two, not just one or two, but 3, 4, 5 kids, and start having them young so that you can have that many kids so that we can outnumber and overpopulate the liberals, right? So that's the issue there.
But that's getting fixed, though. That's getting fixed. Matter of fact, when
But it's
Andrew
still
Wilson
because
got on the panel and exposed Megan Kelly for what she is, when I get on panels and expose feminists for what they are too, and then when you do commentary with your shorts and do this, when you say that men need to do this, you're tackling 2 points for me. For one, you're actually proving me right on the prompt, saying that you care enough to do this with the trenches and getting in there fighting with us. Congrats, welcome to our ranks. You're now enlisted in the fight with the trenches against these feminists, which means you do care. The second thing, though, too, is that this is being solved by men like me with bravery, courage, and this distinct logic that we have through Christian ethics. And we're fighting this in mass right now. And this war is beginning. And all I'm saying throughout this whole thing is I want to change your mind because I think that you do care. The fact that you're in the fight, which means that you do care. And I don't think that this is just a sex issue. I think that this is overwhelmingly an ideological war. And the fact that we're in this fight means that we do care as men generally.
I would
Yeah,
say
so
just to add
yeah, yeah,
to that real quickly, that you are correct in that there are things that we can change, especially when it comes to who gets to vote, for example, and how what are the conditions for that. Now, this is what I would say with the ace odd. Right now, the only way we can do it is, or the system they have right now is the system that we have right now. Everybody's able to vote. So the only way that we're going to be able to do it is by actually engaging in ethics and getting the people to understand the ethical purview so that they all do what is in their best interest at the end of the day, because that's why it is an ethical system. If we start excluding people based on their gender, we're creating this apathy, right? It's like we have a bunch of women, they are going to vote, and we're not even telling them what is the good and what is the thing they should do because we think they shouldn't have a voice. That is, I think that's completely against even our ideas. We should be telling them, in fact, what is the ethical thing to do. You should vote for Trump, for example, because even though it's not the perfect thing, that it's not the second coming of Jesus Christ, if we keep on going more towards open borders, for example, our kids or the kids that live in this country are the ones who are going to be suffering. And there are a lot of different ways of tackling not only ease issues like the ones that we have right now, but also odd issues. Like, yes, women should in general be married, but if you're 30 and you're not married, that doesn't mean that your worth as a human being in the eyes of God is gone forever. Okay, what it
Yeah.
means is you need to be able to talk to those people and tell them, hey, look, family based as fuck, and this is what we should be doing to get you to have a family because it's going to be good for you at the end of the day, right? We're not going to be like, if you just come to people and be like, oh, you're just horrible, you're doing this horrible thing all the time, the people are just not going to listen to you. They're gonna destroy you. You're going to create apathy on them. So you have to be able to listen to them and to care enough to actually be there and do and have a conversation with them and make the changes that you want in the world. And it comes with rhetoric, it comes with propaganda, it comes with being able to talk to people to actually get like the red pill ideas, for example, that are very prevalent right now. We have a bunch of red pillars. Okay, fine. Red pill is have good observations, but it's not the ethical system that we want. We're not gonna go ahead and just shit on woman and make 50 hoes because we want to find the perfect wife, right? That's not the way
Yeah,
that
no,
it's supposed to do.
I don't agree with I don't agree with most of the red pill prescriptors. Like I can agree with I pretty much agree with all of their descriptors, but
Hmm.
yeah, when it comes to their prescriptors, pretty much all of it uh other than like kind of like the like the really surface level stuff about you got to get in shape, you got to get your finances up, get your credit up. Yeah, that's fine. But I mean, as far as like the prescriptors, yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, we can agree with that. So we have the actual. If you're thinking about Christianity, we have to be able to give them the prescriptions, the Christian prescriptions for their life, and the way that we have done it throughout history. We do use shame, not saying no, but if we talk to somebody and they're like, "Well, I'm in this shit predicament of my part of my life," we're not gonna just shame it into submission. We're gonna be like, "Oh, let me you know let me tell you the good news. Jesus Christ is here. Let's go to church. Let's do all of these things that are going to be better for you in your life. I'm not just going to go
Yeah.
ahead and shit on them because of whatever happens." And I think it's it's a better way of looking at it than it's, "Oh, you're a woman, you should shut up," especially right now, because all we're getting from that is you're a horrible misogynistic guy that doesn't want to even engage. And if that's what we're giving them in return, they will be right. So we have to be able to tell them like, "No, I would engage, but I'm not gonna no, I'm not gonna change my mind. I'm not gonna agree with you just because I'm engaging with you. I'm gonna tell you what is correct, and I'm gonna care for you enough to tell you what is the correct thing." Right.
Yeah, and so that's one of the reasons why I brought up like these massive names, these massive like conservative women's names like Megan Kelly, like Martae, you brought up the fact that like Andrew Wilson like called her out about being a covert feminist, but the problem that I see is that yes, that's great, and it was like really good to see somebody calling somebody like her out on that. But at the end of the day, Megan Kelly is a massive, massive name, right? I mean, she has a massive audience. So it's like, well, so what if not to discredit Andrew, obviously, right? But I mean, Andrew is not as big of a name as somebody like a Megan Kelly, right? So the thing is that maybe Andrew got some of Megan Kelly's audience to agree with that fact that like, hey, yeah, she says she's conservative, but she's telling young women to go and prioritize their careers. But at the end of the day, I think that we need to change Megan Kelly's mind and make her understand that like, hey, if you're going to say you're a conservative woman, you need to be telling these young girls to prioritize marriage as opposed to a career, because then her massive audience
Well,
of young women presumably are going to actually start listening to her. Does
well,
that make sense?
well, here's the problem is you're going to have to, we need Megan Kelly, believe it or not, to be the anti whatever it is we are. Because here's the thing though, that poses the question, like, let's say Satan never existed. Will there be evil? And there's all these debates about this. Well, that's the thing though, is like, there will never be glory if there's nothing to overcome. You need Megan Kelly as like a beating drum so that way we can show the polarization of how wrong she is. We need that. She actually serves a good purpose, believe it or not, because if I'm on her
Sure,
panel
yeah.
and I expose her, now I've polarized a whole bunch more people and more people. And matter of fact, so here's the other point too, is when you say, well, maybe it only affect a few people. Well, that was one too many people, even if it was just a few that changed your mind. And here's the other thing too, social media is such a beautiful construct that clip, there was like a small clip. This clip has been, I don't know whose screen is that?
It's mine.
Oh, Emmett, let them know that you're still here. I know that vampires don't.
I am still here.
Mirrors. Vampires don't reflect in mirrors, so you probably don't reflect on the screen. It probably doesn't recognize
gone.
you as
It's
being
gone. There. I'm not alive. It said, "Are you still here?" And I said, "Well, like, technically."
Yeah, if you're a vampire and you're in the mirror, it's not going to see you, just like the camera's not going to see you. So it doesn't acknowledge you seeing you. But this is my point. That clip has probably gone viral so many different times. And then you clip that clip is going to I don't know how long that lifespan of that clip is going to be, but it's long. That it's not going to age well for her. And if we attack them on all fronts, there's going to be more clips and more clips. All we're going to do is become clip factories, a based antithesis of what feminism is. And I think that that's good. Be clip producer. Do this, combat it in all fronts. Even if we may be small, converting a few people at a time starts dismantling their position overall.
Yeah.
A little bit can mean a lot. So keep doing it.
Yeah, I agree with that fully, Martae. It's not to say, I think that even if it was just one woman that Andrew Wilson got to understand, convinced, changed her mind, I think that that's wonderful. But at the same time, I also think that if we're able to change, right? If guys like Andrew, guys like you, guys like me, if we're able to change the minds of the Megyn Kellys, right, and get them to, like, I think that it'll have like a much bigger impact, right? Because now it's not just a man telling these women, hey, prioritize your career, prioritize children and marriage over a career. Now it's like, now you have like this very successful woman who, she's a household name basically, and she has been a household name for decades. Now it's not just like this man telling him. Now it's like you have this woman telling him, like, yeah, girls, like, absolutely need to prioritize your
but I to be honest, I think that that's a pipe dream, because how many feminists are you really going to change their mind? Because there's a lot of pride, and then there's the sisterhood. You're fighting all that. So it's here. But here's the thing, though. Aftermath, there's so many people that I've debated that have never, even if they were wrong in their opinions, like blatantly wrong. I've literally debated somebody and said same-sex people can't naturally have kids, and they've won a debate because of the audience poll. But guess what? As soon as I put this clip up, people are saying, yeah, you got robbed and all this. It's the audience in public square that's going to be determining factor no matter what. But here's the thing, though, that's beautiful about this. We're not there to change the person's mind in a debate mainly. We're there to change the audience's perspective and change hearts and minds at home. I don't think it's realistic to change your Megyn Kelly's home, because if her feminist mindset is making her dollars and keeping her on air, she's not going to change for you, for some person that just shows up. But guess what is going to happen? If we beat on this position and destroy her so many different times, the person at home is going to see through this conditioning that happens, or through that pattern process that happens of her position being destroyed, that they're going to be like, oh shit, she got destroyed again. You know what? I think I'm going to start questioning my positions, because Martae's planting seeds, Aftermath's planting seeds, Emmett is being like, orthodoxy's the way. He's planting seeds. If we can continue to destroy this wooden statue, in Tai Chi, that they're using that wooden thing that doesn't beat on you, but it has to exist to get beat on. Megyn Kelly is just that instrument that has to get beat on so other people can see the spectacle and change their mind.
The only way that you can just 1 second.
Yeah.
The only way that you can, at the end of the day, change her mind is by changing the audience, because there's no other way that you can change her.
You're going to change hearts and minds at home, and to me, that's going to be most impactful. And guess what? If she starts losing revenue because the audience isn't tuning in anymore, she might change her position then, because she's going to follow the money.
I have a response to this, Martae. Give me 1 minute. I have to use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
I do have a response to this. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay. It says, will they want their daughters to be totally reliant on their husband because it had been IB Fox, says Cat. I would say that it depends on what kind of system you have, but if I would like them to have I would prefer for them to have a family that they can grow up together, and they don't see it as as how fucked their life can be in the future. It will be more about how much they can grow together.
Well, I would just say that, like, let's just say that's because I would normally say, well, that's just an anecdote, but also I would say that you also need to make sure that you have a father in the home. Right. And I know that this doesn't reconcile what you just said right now, but I'm going to tie this in real quick. I think that if we can have a society where we have fathers in the home, the daughter is naturally going to change the way that she vets men. She's going to look for a good father in men that she dates. Is that not true? So by proxy, I think that if a
I don't
woman
think
is
so.
going to look for her father in men that she dates, which if he was a Christian based father, she's going to pick better to where she's not going to be in a situation where she's going to be fucked, because most likely she's going to say, my dad was a good father. I know how to weed out bad men to not be with the man that I can't totally be reliant on.
I
So
don't.
I think that
I don't
solves a
think
lot
that
of
is.
problems.
I don't think that actually like answers her question, because that's not her case specifically. But
Yeah.
I would say that I would prefer. I would think more of a societal standard of how to be. Like the marriage has to. They're looking together towards the virtue of, instead of thinking of the possibility of the failure, right? When you're getting married, you're not trying to figure out all of the things you're gonna get fucked in the future. You have to figure out ways that you can grow together so that it goes in tandem, and the people that are gonna go through that process of getting married have an idea forward. Because right now what we're doing is just feelings based. Oh, this feels nice, and it doesn't necessarily lead towards the growth of the family together.
I wanted to respond to what you were saying, Marte, about Megyn Kelly, and how you thought that it was just kind of a pipe dream to, get her to change your mind on her take about, women prioritizing, uh, uh, marriage over a career.
Yeah.
I think that, see, the thing is, if it was a Anna Kasparian name, right, like somebody who's on the left, I would agree with you, right? Because they don't identify as conservatives, right? Anna Kasparian doesn't identify as a conservative or a right winger. Megyn Kelly does. Megyn Kelly will tell you that she's a conservative, right winger Republican. So I think that it is possible, if enough people, if enough Andrew Wilsons, if enough Martays, and if enough people, and then if people like fans of hers even start saying that, like, hey, you keep saying that you're a conservative, you're a right winger, you're a Republican, but you're telling young women to go and pursue a career as opposed to a marriage, and that's very contradicting. And I think that enough people continue to tell her, like, hey, you're completely contradicting yourself. I think that at a point she will have to kind of address the issue and be forced to actually think about like what she's saying, like, oh yeah, that does make sense. That and it could be difficult, and most likely it won't happen, but I think that it is possible that we can get some of these women to understand that they're talking out of both sides of their
Yeah,
mouth
but
when they say they're conservative and then telling young women to go chase a career.
But Aftermath, that actually makes our point. That's what we were saying, is that it's possible to change her mind if we change the way that her money works. Because I guarantee you, Megyn Kelly is a materialist, because when she talks about things and what my dad has and what my husband used to be an ex-pro athlete, and he does, now like very materialist when you talk about what people are and what they have. So I guarantee if you change the influx of the money, which means that her audience, if they stop tuning in, it's going to affect her pocketbook, which means she's going to have to probably change her stance. That's the point that we were making. It can happen, but we need to actually use her as a beating drum to actually change the audience's opinion and expose a lot of the issues that she has. And what she'll do is she'll follow suit. But this is the reason why I said it's a pipe dream, is because you can't change her opinion directly. You have to just change the landscape. You have to change the temperature of the room. And the way that we can do this is by affecting the viewership, by exposing the lies and the propaganda that she spews, and actually just exposing her for what she is. I think that that's what's going to change her mind by third party. If the audience follows suit, changes their mind, and they open their eyes and ears and hearts, and we change those at home, I think that's an effective way to do that. But we're going to change the audience's mind, I believe, before we change her mind. You're agreeing with us, actually. You're just saying it differently.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I could see that.
But I would say the same thing about, for example, let's say that Michael Knowles, just as an example, right? He started to say, women, you should start doing careers, and you should start doing the same thing as Megyn Kelly, but it's just Michael Knowles. I would say exactly the same thing about Michael. I would just go ahead and be like, hey, you're failing on the way that you're taking these kind of issues, because what we want is what we want is the family units, right? Like if you're gonna go ahead and destroy the idea of the family just to have this idea of the boss babe, not saying yeah, as the boss babe, that would be a failure of, and that is an ethical question. Once again, it's not about whether or not Michael Knowles had tits in this hypothetical example. The problem is the ethics and the morality of it.
Yeah, and that's a thing too. Is like I know Kat. I saw her comment because I went over to Emmett's stream on my phone to look at this. But this is my answer too as well. Too. Maybe this will be a non-answer. But when I get married, I want to be able to make enough money as a diesel tech to where my wife can work, but now it's optional and she doesn't have to work. So that way we're not reliant on like, I have to work. It's more like I get to work if I want to. And it's like extra money for her if she wants it. But I want to be able to be the guy that slays the dragon, saves the castle from crumbling and all that. I think that homes work better like that anyways. I think that if I'm the hero and the person that is the bedrock of the household, it's better like that because normally the person who makes the most money in the household, correct me if I'm wrong, tends to make most of the decisions because most of the decisions are tied to finances. So there you have it.
Most cases.
Yeah, most cases.
In most cases.
Yeah. I will say though, not I guess to kind of push back on that, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about the wife submitting to the husband. So in a lot of and Emmett, you said that you're Spanish, right? You're Spanish
I'm from no. I'm from Mexico. I'm
from
actually
Mexico. So Mexican, okay.
Mhm.
I know that you kind of tend to see this in Mexican and Spanish cultures as well, but uh, it's very prevalent in Slavic cultures like Russian, Ukrainian, and even in Armenian cultures, where what will happen is you'll have for example a Russian, and I've seen this over the years. You'll have a Russian family, right? You'll have a Russian couple immigrate to the United States, and maybe they'll have a couple of young kids, or maybe they'll have kids here while they're here. And what will happen is the man, because he doesn't speak English, he doesn't have necessarily have any like type of high skill set. He is forced to go out and do like manual labor jobs, basically do anything that he can to make ends meet and provide for the family, right?
Mhm.
But then the wife, who she may have like a fairly high IQ. So what will happen is the wife will end up going to school, right? She'll end up going to school and maybe becoming a nurse, a dental hygienist, something like this. And what will happen is she will actually start to out earn the husband, right? She will start to out earn the husband. Now the husband is still hustling, right? The husband is still out there working 60, 70 hours a week, doing whatever he has to do to provide, right? And he's
Yeah.
making money because he's working 60, 70 hours a week, just grinding away, right? But the wife is making better money, right? Because now she has a high skill job and she's making good money. But it doesn't change the dynamic in that relationship where even though she goes out and makes a lot more money by being whatever, a nurse or whatever, when she comes home, she's still submitting to the husband because again, it's that culture, it's that religious
That's
thing of
rare
like,
though.
well, it's
That's
not as rare as
extremely rare.
it's not as rare as you think though when it
is.
comes to like
If you look, I can show you numbers
Well,
too on that. But
Martae, let me put it this way. Okay, I think what you're saying is can be correct, and it's perfectly understandable too. Let's say that there's and I think this has happened. I think it was the case for Andrew even that his dad had a medical condition and he couldn't work anymore, and the wife was the one that was working.
well, that's
And
different. I'm talking about like capable
I-
people. I understand there's
No,
extenuating circumstances.
they both are
handicapped and all that.
yeah, let's say that they both are capable and they both are working as a family. And she is still, they're doing things together, and they are the man's the one that's taking like the decisions when it comes to his duties for the family. This is what I find that is a little bit. Sometimes we lost in the weeds in the generalities when it comes to these the prescriptions, even though they are general, they can be also very very particular. Okay, if you have a family together and they at the end of the day the woman's making more money and that the guy, and they're both are working and they put their finances together and they're still working to have a good family, and he's still attending his duties as a husband when it comes to going to the church, taking care of taking care of her wife, taking care of the protection of the home, taking care of his duties, and she's taking care of her duties as well. The way that works is under who's making more money is not a moral issue.
Who?
That point.
What's the number one reason for divorce again?
Yes, it's financial,
Okay,
but it's not a moral. It's not a moral issue.
And women initiate how many? The majority. Okay.
Yes, and once again, would it be a moral issue? What is the problem there?
So
is that she was making more money? Is that the problem?
So this is the majority of the problem that we get. So a lot of women will say, well, you're not fulfilling your end of the bargain because I now have to carry said family. If you look at like divorce cases, more often than not, the reason why they're initiating isn't just because of financial issues, but because they're saying, well, it's because I feel unfulfilled. Well, a lot of this is tied to finances, hardship, and the women having to carry the burden. I hear this often. Like, this is such a big mantra.
I understand. Will she be doing something wrong by doing that?
By leaving the family destitute and initiating divorce? Yes, I do believe she's doing a lot wrong. Yeah.
Why? If it's a moral issue that she's making more money, if this is the case, then she wouldn't be doing anything wrong, right? She would be acting according to what is good because she's making more money.
What is this? Is happening.
I don't care about what is in this case because we're talking moral. I don't see who's making
more
money
now,
in the family as a moral issue.
You're smuggling morals into this when I wasn't talking about morals in the beginning. So
well, I was talking about the moral thing. If you have man and woman, they're working together. She's making more money than he is, and they're working together as a family. Who is making more money? I don't see that as a moral issue. They're both are doing.
You're actually warping what I just said. So my whole issue.
That was my point. You worked what I said because that was my point at the beginning.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm actually dealing with what you said.
Yes.
As a majority in America, women are initiating most of the divorces. In aftermath, you've probably done the research on this. They are, and the number one reason is because of finances. Wouldn't it make sense that if the man is making more money, then they wouldn't have the financial issues to initiate, and they don't feel like they have the capability of doing this because they feel like they're now more dependent on the man and reliant on the man, and they're going to be less inclined to initiate divorces?
Sure. Yeah, no, I can agree with that. But
it's kind of a reversal of the whole thing, right? That's what I'm saying.
The point that I was trying to make was that it all comes down to, but now to be fair though, yes, that's true what you said, but those are basically like secular marriages, right? Those are generally speaking, those are set.
This is like a lot of 67% of Christian non-denominational people do this. In fact, non-denominational people have the highest divorce rates amongst Christians. And when we go to the money, that's again reiterating the same thing. They have the same problem. And I agree that sewing circle feminist Christians, I agree. Yeah. Maybe we're not going to call them Christians, but who am I to make that claim upon self-identifying Christians?
But in the Orthodox, as far as like the Orthodox community and the Orthodox marriages, you do see this a lot, and I've seen it myself. Where because Russians and like Slavics, they are like like the Russian Orthodox and very religious, and so yes, that I see this. I've seen this countless times, and even Emmett even alluded to the fact about how Andrew, his dad was like ill for many years, and the mother, the wife had to like support, and so
one also happened. I agree.
And so again, it comes down to the whole thing of religion, right? And so that's why again orthodoxy makes so much sense to me, because when you take the vows, right, it's like till death do us part, and the woman submitting to the husband, it's like if something happens to the husband, he is still the head of the household, right? He's still the head, like, and so even if he's not making as much money, if the wife is really about submitting to Christ, right, submitting to his husband the way the husband submits to Christ, then yes, it shouldn't matter. Like now, that's not to say the husband still needs to do his level best to provide and make as much money as possible and continue to grow his wealth and all that. Yes,
I agree.
But if it's a situation, whether it's like a health related situation or like the example that I brought up of like Slavic couples coming here, and the husband is out working his ass off doing like very like low skill jobs, but he's still working, he's still providing. And then the wife goes out and goes to school, goes to nursing school, and now she's making more money. It shouldn't change, in my opinion. If it's like an Orthodox Christian
No, I
household,
agree.
it shouldn't change. So that's the only thing I just want
I
to
agree.
bring up.
I
I'm gonna
agree with
agree.
you with the ease, Martae. I agree
I'm
with
going to
you
agree
with
with
the
both of
ease.
you. So this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to agree with both of you. If a husband, like let's say I get disabled, right? I get disabled. I would hope that my wife loves me enough to stay in the fight. Now, when you talking about Orthodox Christianity, yes, you're talking about probably like a shield from feminism. Beautiful, right? But we want to be able to shield our family from feminism no matter what, because once that gets in the home, he's not really pulling his weight. Sounds like feminism, right? So I think that you're right. Orthodoxy only has a divorce rate of 9%. It's really low for a reason, because we acknowledge the hierarchy. Now, here's the thing that I'll tell you right now. Is it possible that a woman could support us for a long time? I believe that could probably happen, but I think that there's like a time limit, and I think the clock is running when it comes to that, because that's feminism. Sure. But I think that if we're going to live in the West, we're going to constantly be having to fend off feminism. And you know how you do that? By making sure that you ensure this hierarchical role is established and that you are making the most money. And I know it sounds really bad and red pill for me to say this, but I think that if you are competent and you can make more money, why not fight to become the breadwinner? Why not try to do that? At least fight for that.
Yeah, no, I can agree
that
with that.
At least make an attempt to try to do that, to stave off feminism. That helps. That's all.
Martae, but that's not in contention here. That's never been in contention. Like, yes, I mean,
it's not in contention, but I just want to make sure that is one of the pillars of the foundation of my point that I'm making. That's all. So
it's not in contention. The thing we're saying, hey, is like, is it his responsibility most of the time? Yes, it is. But if the case is by some weird reason that you're together, you're working, she's making more money. The fact that she's making more money is not a moral issue.
It's not a moral issue, but guess what's going to happen? Time.
Nothing is going to happen. No. Why?
The clock is ticking. So here's why. Because here's
the guy is working, she's working. Or let's say that. Let's put it this way: a Slavic family. They come here. Guys bust his ass. The woman goes to nursing school. She's making a ton more money. He's like, okay, I would like to.
Wait, hold on, real quick. She's going through nursing school. Is the majority of the women indoctrinated by the West, who she's surrounded by in nursing school? Most cases.
Let's say, okay, yes, I agree, but that would be a problem. That would be wait.
Sandwich making, right?
At that point, what will be the problem? The problem will be that there is an attack on the morals.
Right.
Person,
so she's surrounded by feminism.
And the way that we're gonna do,
the way we're gonna liberal-minded, anyways.
The way that we're gonna deal with it is by acquiescing to the secular values. Then we're gonna be saying, what I'm saying is, it's fine if he's making less money than you, then it's totally understandable that you get a divorce. Is that the way that we're gonna deal with it?
No, what I'm saying is, you want to be able to fend off feminism by putting yourself in a position to make sure that you never have to fight a greater fight than you have to. By making sure that you heal yourself, get back on your feet as much as possible, and make sure that you're never in a position to where you're being undermined by the world even more.
Let's say that the guy was an incredible engineer. Okay, he goes on, he's working his ass off. The girl is just I don't know. She goes to school because he was making enough money. She becomes a nurse. AI comes in, takes away his job as a systems engineer. He's not making any more money at that point. You think that the ought of the woman is to leave him now because he's not making that much money?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, though, in that position, let's say the AI comes and takes this guy's job, right? Mm-hmm. Now, he has plenty of reactions that he can have by
he's trying to find a job. He's trying to do what he can, but he's not making as much money as she's doing right now.
What I'm saying is, if he is an astute observer of reality, he knows what the divorce rate's looking like and how women move naturally, because women are easily influenced by their environment. Like, let's say she goes to nursing school. Chances are it's probably surrounded by liberal women everywhere. He knows that the clock is ticking on this in her being around these liberal women and they're talking.
Yeah.
Let's say she's very based. She's going to constantly be hearing this in the break room and all that. He knows that the clock is ticking. He needs to be able to fight this by saying, you know what, there's trade schools, there's other things I can do. The best way that I can fend this off is by becoming a better man and fending off AI. No man should be able to—
let's say that he goes on, 2 years passes, he tries to establish a new company, he's been trying his best, just fucking bad luck, you know. God decides it's gonna rain on his fucking parade, and everything he's doing right now is fucked up. Is it his morally? Is he is she justified morally to leave this bum's ass because he's not doing as much money as he used to?
No, I'm not making a justification for her leaving.
Then what are we talking about?
What I'm talking about is fending off the fact that she's going to be leading this direction. Because if we leave women to their own devices without leadership, without being the bedrock and making them feel safe like we should, to be honest, they shouldn't leave anyways. That's not the argument I'm making. The argument I'm making is that with a third world country, I can understand that, but we live in one of the most civilized countries in the world. I think that you are retarded if you have 2 working legs, 2 hands, and you can't get a blue collar job that makes decent money. I think that you are handicapped and seriously messed up in the head.
He's making 45. He's making 50 a year. She's making 120. He's trying his fucking best to get back to where he was making 220.
You're gonna have some really bad luck if you're in that position. I'm just gonna be honest with you. The odds are not gonna be in your favor.
He was making 220. He was an engineer.
Yeah.
He was a systems engineer. Lost his freaking job thanks to AI. He's been trying to get back in his feet. He has to take a menial job because he doesn't have the skills required to get this kind of blue collar job. He's making about 60 a year. She's making 120. Okay,
well,
3 years happened. Is she justified leaving him?
You need to cleave closer to the church, because that's almost a setup, to be honest with you. Because if he's making $200,000 a year, she's already acclimated to a certain lifestyle and a certain creature comfort and all this other stuff. I would tell the man to cleave closer to Christ.
She's justified.
In the church.
She's justified of leaving him, right? She's justified of leaving.
No, my whole thing isn't making a justification of her leaving. I'm just telling you women's nature.
If her nature is to leave because it's in her nature, because that is the ontology status of her, she would be justified.
No, that's not. I'm not making a justification. I'm just saying because
if
I know that a dog's nature.
If a big shark is in his if a big shark is in his nature to eat a fish, okay, is the big shark in his nature justified to eat a fish?
Well, that's a false equivalent, because we have rational reasoning, and sharks operate on a different modus operandi.
Yeah, I agree, but if it's in his nature, then it would be, if let's say that I have making 220 and she's making 120, and we have to sell the house and move to a lower standard neighborhood, and the value of the family should be on both sides. The value on the family should be on the woman's side and on the men's side. And if she's like, oh, I have this clock ticking and I have nothing to do because it's on my nature, I'm going to leave him, then that would justify her, because it will be her nature.
Well, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you brought up a false equivalent of sharks, and we don't live in an ocean. So let's stick to humans first of all. But the next issue I want to talk about is when we talk about women's
let me put it this way. If a rat person of Pakistan is retarded because he has 60 IQ, then I would say that any 60 IQ individual that is from Pakistan is like not able to think because it's in his nature.
But we live in the West right now. Let's talk about women's biological clocks that are ticking. We have other clocks than just a biological clock ticking, but let's get to one of the 3 clocks that women have. When women hit 35, they have a geriatric pregnancy. They realize that they can't F around when it comes to having babies, because once it comes to a certain point, they have a biological clock. Matter of fact, their endocrine system starts ramping up and they become more horny, and men's testosterone goes down. So everybody's got a clock regardless. Now we have a societal clock that we have to function on, meaning, like, if we look at everybody else around us, women are monkey see, monkey do.
They are married, Martae. They're already married. Let's say that they have 2 kids. They're already married. Okay, guy
Well,
was
now
making
you're
220.
smuggling on all these other different
No,
things. You're like adjusting
I'm
your
asking
whole
you. I'm
scenario
asking.
hypothetical
I'm
as we
asking
go.
you. I'm asking you about the justification for her because you say, well, if the guy
No,
stops making as
I'm
much
not
money,
making a
if the guy,
justification argument. That was never my
that
argument
is
to
a
make a
justification
justification.
argument. If she is justified because it has this clock in her brain
I've
that is
never
part of
brought
her
up the word
nature, that
justified.
would
You
be
are doing
part of
that.
the justification.
I'm not making a justification argument. What I'm doing is I'm making a preventative argument on men's side. I think that if men can stave this off in a first world country where you have two arms, two working legs, you should be able to keep working. Like, let's say that he has 2 years of where he's making shit pay $50,000 a year. I think that he should still not give
A lot
up
of
and
money, by
save
the
his
way.
family by trying to do better. Is that how am I wrong for that?
He's already trying to.
No, there's no such thing as already trying. You can always do better. I talk to bodybuilders all the time.
You can
and
always
they're
do
like, I
better?
eat enough, Martae. I don't know how to build weight or do any. Eat more. You're not eating enough. You're not doing enough. If you realize that you live in the Western world where she's indoctrinated by feminism and constantly under the barragement of feminism, keep fighting. Stay in the fight. This fight never
She's
ends
a
until the
moral
day that we're
agent. Why do you think they're
evacuating
retarded?
flesh. It'll never end.
I don't understand this capacity of pretending that women are not able to think of themselves. Like they have to, whenever they see another woman that says, "Hey, there is this clock," that immediately that like their mind becomes this clock or something. Okay, they are moral agents. They're not retarded. They can think of for themselves.
No,
They
wait,
can
hold
actually
on,
do
hold
the
on.
correct
No,
thing.
you're talking about the most propagandized subset of
So
community
what?
that we have in the United States.
So what?
That community,
So what?
right?
Are they,
So
if we
they're
have if
easily
they're too stupid, okay,
indoctrinated,
fine. If
what
yes,
we can
if
do
they're
is
just
fend that off by
indoctrinated, listen.
leading closer to Christ.
Justification comes from what is the justification? Comes from the idea that they can act morally in accordance to what is correct and right. If
No, I'm not.
I say
I'm not
people
speaking about
cannot do,
justification. Once again,
if I'm saying that people cannot act in accordance to what is correct and right, which by the way, in accordance to our beliefs, they can because they have to. Okay, if they cannot do it, if they just follow a manual or they follow their only nature, okay, if that is the case, then they cannot be saved even.
women are
They're
more
just doing the
inclined to do
thing.
this, but it's not. I'm not making an absolutist argument. That's never my claim. What you're doing is you're
Well,
turning it into that, but I'm not doing that either.
what I'm saying is they don't even if the guy has a shit time and it's really bad for it's they have a really bad
He
time and
shouldn't
they're
give
making
up.
more money.
He shouldn't stop trying. He shouldn't stop fighting. Men,
No, she shouldn't.
Look.
She shouldn't give up. She should stay with him and his
yeah,
family.
but
She should do all of these
hold on.
things.
Who are women following here? They're supposed to follow the man, right? They're supposed to
In
follow
accordance to
Christ
yes.
through men, right?
Why are you? Yeah. Why?
Right, exactly.
What is this in question?
So we shouldn't give up because if we don't give up, guess who they're emulating and guess who they're going to copy and follow? Right. That was my whole point.
Did you read Job at any point? Have you ever read Job?
It's you mean Job? I
Yeah,
don't know if
Job.
it's your accent.
It's my accent. Job. It's what we say.
well, I'm
in
black.
Spanish.
I don't know if I could say job, but
Have you read it?
first
Have you read it? Have you read it at any time?
Yeah, I know the story of Job. Yeah, he lost everything.
He lost everything.
Yeah.
And was it his fault?
He was being tested.
He was being tested by God, right?
Yeah, he was being. I mean,
so
it was
let's say that because in the story the wife dies, but
But Job didn't give up. That's my whole point. He didn't give up. You should keep trying. You should keep fighting.
What was he doing? Do you remember what was he doing?
You're talking about Job lamenting?
Yes.
He was lamenting.
He was lamenting where?
He was lamenting.
Was he
by
outside
himself.
hustling, being all red peel with his Gucci, and he being like, "Yo, I'm gonna make $150 billion next year
Yeah,
because
but
I'm
you
gonna
realize
hustle my
that-
way out"?
So
Or he was like he was being tested and he was lamenting and he was in the temple pouring himself in ashes.
So faith without works is what?
Oh my God, you're
We should
not
be able to
getting that.
work,
You're not
right?
even
We should be
getting
able
it.
to keep trying no matter what. It doesn't matter. We're in this fight till we die.
Listen to the hypothetical. The guy is working. The guy is trying. The guy is not bumming. He's like, I'm making, I
Does
was
that mean he
making
should just quit and
220.
give up?
I'm
Damn it?
making
He should just
50.
give up? What are you saying? Just nihilism? That's
at what
crazy.
point? At what point is he giving up? He was making money, and then he
Right.
was making 220. He's making 50.
If
Okay,
he's making
wife.
50 and 50's not
The-
cutting it, do you think he has more opportunity or less living in the US compared to a third world country?
Okay, with 50, you can survive with 50 in the US.
You can
There's no-
survive with
there's no
50
big
in the US,
deal.
but if your wife is making $200,000, do you
Yeah.
think your marriage is a greater risk or less risk of failing?
It should be at the same risk.
That's not what the
The
stats show.
should,
Numbers don't
because
show any of that stuff. Emmett, where in reality are you
making
showing me this? Can you show me any?
should. This is a should argument, okay?
Yeah, should, but
the
I'm
moral
making
action.
his argument. I'm looking at reality, Emmett.
It is. I don't give a shit. We're
You don't care about
We're
reality?
talking about moral. Not in this case. We're talking about morality.
Reality left the window.
We are talking about morality, okay? In this case, the question is if is it immoral for him to make 50? Is it immoral for him to make 50 and the wife to make 200?
No, I'm not making it. I'm not making a moral argument here. That's
So
not what I'm pleading.
I am, because I'm saying should, right? Is it immoral for him to make 50 and her to make 200?
No, that's not a morality issue. What are you talking about?
Is she justified morally in leaving him because he's making 50?
And then once again, I'm not making a justification for her leaving either.
Okay, then she should suck it up and stay with him, right? That's
she
her should.
But
So
there we go.
Likely going
Thank
to
you.
probably happen under the barrage of the Western feminism.
I don't give about. I don't give
money.
a shit. I don't give a shit because I'm talking about the moral
Yeah,
action.
cool. You
Is
don't
it
give a
morally
shit.
justified?
Stats and numbers don't really show any of that or reflect any of that.
Don't care.
So-
I'm asking
so-
who is
so, hey,
justified.
So if I can maybe just I don't mean to interrupt, but if I can maybe see if I can I guess kind of clarify what Martae is saying and what you're saying, Emmett, is basically Martae is saying that as a man you need to continue to because you are the head, right? You do have an obligation and a duty to provide. You have to constantly try to continue to grow your wealth, constantly try to improve and get a raise and up your finances. But then what Emmett is saying, Martae, is basically that if there is a situation within the relationship that the wife ends up making more money, like significantly more money, let's just say, than the husband, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's like this moral dilemma where the wife has a right to leave the husband. Although
No, I agree with that.
Although the husband should, if he's able to, right? Like there's all kinds of situations, but like, I mean, if the husband is able to, he should continue to try to, continue to work and continue to provide and up his finances. Is that?
But Aftermath, because I don't think I was exactly clear with this. And I'll bring it up to me. I'll bring it. This could be just me. Maybe I'm the loony bin that's on the panel talking crazy. If I was in a relationship and I was making $50,000 and next week my wife was making $200,000 a year, I would have some alarm bells ringing, right? I would not be thinking in my rational mind if I just ignored the fact that women are leaving and she's out here in this Western nation listening to women's opinions because she has to. If she's making $200,000 a year, I guarantee you she's around some liberal spaces or a break room or something like that, or has to listen to some liberal opinions. If she's hearing any of this other stuff, I now have to work to try to combat this. Like, let's say that never happens. It's never giving her a justification to leave. I agree with Emmett. I'm not ever going to make a justification argument, but I like, this is just me. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe the chat can tell me I'm crazy, but I think some alarm bells are going to be going off by saying, oh shit. Okay. I think that I'm at a greater chance of her leaving. So I need to really start thinking about what I need to do to kind of like make up for the fact, or it's just a worry in my mind. That's what I'm thinking. Like, let me not say worry, but it's something that I'm going to be strategizing and concerned about if my wife starts making more money than me.
Yeah, but it's not like it's going to be, she's going to go from one day making.
No, it doesn't happen overnight. All these things are gradual. They gradually happen. Right? Divorces don't happen overnight either, right? These are gradual. Sure. So if I'm only making $50K a year and my wife is making $100,000 a year, I already know what hypergamy is. I already know what the world is going to do. She's going to be inundated with feminism. And guess what? 3 years down the line, we may not be even in the same position. It's rare and unlikely that those couples usually tend to stay together, to be honest with you. Now, thankfully, I'm in the Orthodox Church. There's a higher likelihood of us staying together. But I'm just saying in general, that's usually not happening.
Well, the thing is, if I'm gonna go with
That's
that
my whole
argument, I understand your argument. I get
Yeah.
it. But if I'm gonna go with it, then the whole point of it and this is what I talk about the moral issues and the moral ideas. And this is what I think more of the morality more than anything. And it has to do with the fact that if let's say that I accept it, and there's a less I would be pearl pilled right now if that was the case. I would be like, don't get married because you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and it might be the case that something happens to you that's going to put the relationship at risk. And if I'm not going to what should happen as my purview of how we should act, but as the likelihood of what may happen, especially in this reality, I would be thinking like Pearl. I would be like, no, don't get married. Why should you? There's no reason to get married. It's just a zero-sum game in which at the end of the day, if the woman decides that just gonna leave it, you're gonna lose everything you have.
Well, this is my whole point, is I think that the way that you can prevent being pearl pilled is by mitigating as much as possible, because I don't think I've actually wanted to debate Nuke, her boyfriend, and I would have destroyed him on X and Spaces and stuff, because the guy won't face me on YouTube when I challenge him to debates. The guy runs for me. But back to this, here's what we can do as Christians. In my opinion, I think that men should be the bedrock of our relationship. We should follow Christ and cleave to the church as much as possible. That's one thing that mitigates a lot of things, especially in orthodoxy. We can mitigate that. And then, not to mention this, but if we can become the breadwinners, we're mitigating a lot. And I think that my whole argument is mitigating this as much as possible. You can't prevent this. There's no absolute argument I'm making. And I'm not saying it's morally applicable for her to leave, and I'm not giving an allowance for that, because I think it's morally wrong for you to leave just because of finances. I think that's completely wrong. But when you talk about women and numbers and what is happening right now, which you don't care about, you said you don't care about the reality. Going back to this is like,
no, I don't care about the reality when it comes to the moral issue.
I'm talking
when it comes
about
to the moral issue,
this.
I don't care about the reality.
You don't care about the reality?
Yeah, if I'm gonna mitigate all risk, I don't care about the reality when it comes to the moral question. I'm not talking about the is, I'm talking about the ought. Okay, when it comes to, that's what I mean, but I don't care the reality.
You
they
have
care
to
about
be able
ought
to
they
get
leave.
ought from is.
No, what are you talking about? We don't get ought from is.
So what I'm saying is, okay, so that is happening right now, but what ought we do, because what we see is happening right now?
We ought act in accordance to the moral
right
actions.
But even though we ought act a certain way, what is happening should be what we should fight to mitigate from happening. That's how we're looking at this. We need to be able to mitigate
I don't understand you. If we're talking only about risk assessment, and it's only about risk assessment, okay,
yes,
then I will be pearl-pilled, because all the risk
assessment is cleaving to the Orthodox Church.
10% is one
you emulate Christ.
Orthodox
risk assessment.
Perfect.
Too.
Orthodox Church, 10%. How many? Let's say that there's 1,000 per people that get married. Orthodox Church. Okay, it's a 9% divorce rate. How many people is that?
Probably a little bit of people that are finding the truth and a cure. Maybe, but 90? It's booming.
1,000. You said there's 9% in the Orthodox Church. How many is that if 1,000 people get married?
I mean, I don't know.
How many get divorced?
Not a lot of people.
It's 90, right?
No, it's not 90%. So I understand what you're doing with the
1,000 people get married,
that's
90 will get divorced. Okay, what tells you that you're not going to be one of those 90s?
So outside of that, do you think my risks are mitigated less or greater?
You are. I agree with you that you are trying to mitigate risk.
Point, is that the Orthodox Church? You're mitigating a lot of this. That's
Hey
my
guys,
Sorry.
point.
unfortunately, I do have to kind of wrap it up here. Obviously, you guys can
All right,
continue,
all
but
right.
I gotta.
All right,
Yeah, no,
Sorry,
no, I
Aftermath.
really,
I appreciate you
yeah,
showing
sorry.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries, man. Like we kind of, we're kind of. This is a great discussion, to be honest with you. I wanna stick around to the end, but unfortunately, I do have to go. But it was I think it was a really good exchange as far as like why we set this up. And Emmett, I really appreciate it. It was good meeting you, man, and hopefully we can collab again. But
Mhm.
I want to thank you for moderating, and Martae, thank you as always for setting it all up, man. And so yeah, man, thank you guys. I appreciate it. So yeah, you guys want to keep duking it out. I'll try to
I didn't expect to be duking it out with the moderator, but I love it. So I don't it doesn't matter to
yeah,
me.
no, it's great. I want to keep on, but I actually got to go and start taking some hides. So
Yeah, I
unfortunately,
gotta
you
get
guys-
up at like 7 for school. So I gotta get
Yeah, I
up
get
early
it.
too. So
yeah.
1 second, real quick. Everybody, both of their channels on the description below. If you want to shout anything off, Aftermath, this is your moment. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is at the aftermath _ official. And then you can also find me on X. I'm Covert Patriarch on X. And if you go to my YouTube channel, or my X account, on my X account, it'll link to my YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel will have all of my social media. So like I'm on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. I'm on Rumble, so you guys can feel free to follow me there. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Marte, you want to keep duking it out, or do you gonna go to bed because you have school?
yeah, I think we'll duke it out for maybe 1 minute. I got like 1 minute left in me and I think you want to, and I do too, to be honest with you. And then wait, hold on, we can't do that, Emmett, because I know that we're gonna lie to each other. I'm gonna say I got just 1 minute, and then it's gonna be like 4 hours later. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
damn, bro.
Exactly.
Like, Emmett, I can't do it with you because I know that I say, 1 minute, and next thing you know, we're gonna be at this for 4 hours, and I'm gonna have a blast duking it out with you. Let's have this another time because this is a really good topic and discussion.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, because I know if I tell you that, it's going to be a lie. Oh, I only have 1 minute, and then we're just going to be at this forever. So,
anything you want to shout out from your upcoming debates or anything? I know you have
I got a whole list of debates. I have a debate with Dusty on Wednesday.
The 28th.
Yeah, and I have a debate coming up with a guy named Agent Smith that ICE is a net negative. As an ex-agent, I'm going to debate him on this. And then I have a 2v1 debate, me versus Mr. Work on the 27th. And this is going to be that ICE shootings are justified versus Manar and Mr. Work. And then I have a couple more debates coming. I'm up to my ears in debates, Emmett. I don't know what to do. Maybe I just need a manager or something like that at this point because it's getting hectic and out of control. So
I'm gonna have just shouting myself out real quick since I'm gonna be ending too. I have a debate on the 2nd of February with Manar. This is which creates a better economic system, Islam or Christianity. And I will have one with Dusty at some point. I'm waiting for you to have yours because he put that as a prerequisite for me to have his debate, and it's gonna be, is it possible to have a libertarian political system? So those two are the ones that I am going for. Which is weird because in one I'm gonna be like the libertarian guy, and the other one is gonna be destroying libertarianism.
yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
I think I have a debate with First Amender coming up that whites should get reparations from blacks. That's going to be interesting.
That's right. You do got that one. I heard about that one.
Yeah, and I'm going to be defending that whites should get reparations paid from black people. So that's going to be pretty.
I'm giving you a way to get through it. So now you can see me, and it's like, yeah, it's perfect.
Here we go. Again with the pixelated.
There you go.
I want to throw up, but my puke is going to be pixelated too. So let me not do that on stream.
It is what it is.
All right, fellas. Thank you very much again. You guys have a great night, and we'll talk again soon.
All right,
have a
take
great
it easy,
night.
man.
All right, guys.
Aftermath.
All right, bye, guys.
Emmett.
Okay.
You know, if you want, you can have a poll as to like who won the debate, but that's up to you. I don't know how you do polls or
I
whatever.
don't think I don't. To be fair, I don't even think it was like a debate in and of itself. I think the end result was pretty. But we can have it. Let's have it right now.
Damn it! What did we just? Damn it! What did I just say, bro?
Let's do it.
4 hours later. That's what's gonna happen.
Not the debate or between you and me. I said the poll.
Wait, what?
I'm gonna have the poll about who won, you or Aftermath.
It was kind of a conversation actually, but I like it though. It's good. It needed to happen.
It does need to happen because I think there's a lot of red pill influences in our space that is just how we dislike women in general instead of like dealing with the moral issues. And I don't like the idea of, oh, you just hate women, and we're like, we don't really need to engage with that because that's not the case.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
we don't need to have that. We don't need to have the it's just the shut up and we're not going to engage with you. We should be able to engage with different people.
Yeah, I think that we should be able to respect women's opinions, you know, even if it isn't relationship stuff, because if I do think that we give women a voice already in voting, they already have a voice anyways, but we have to actually combat that. So we have to care enough to combat their vote at the booth, because they're like he was saying, he was like, well, I don't care how she feels about Afghanistan or Israel or any stuff. Well, they're voting on this. So it's like, we do have to care about that to curate our own opinions and kind of reflect on how we're going to counter this, like the Megyn Kellys of the world, the Candace Owens and all this. Like, we have to be able to combat this somehow. So we have to care enough, you know, so it's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you in that regard. So that is the thing. That's what I would say. I agree with that. We should just care, and pretending that it's not important is it's a bad idea.
Yeah, I think that if you ignore all women, I mean, they're doing that in Iran right now. How's that working for them? And it's like, yeah, they're ignoring women to the point to where women are now abused. Like, and I'm not making a liberal argument, mind you, but I think that the reason why I brought this up is because he said, I want to lean more towards orthodoxy, but I'm like, the Theotokos is somebody well respected and revered, and we have to ask for her concession for our protection. That's literally asking for a metaphorical opinion. But I think that that's also something that he never addressed either. So it's like, you want to go to orthodoxy? Yeah, you're going to be definitely asking for an opinion. So, I mean, there's also that.
Yeah, it is true.
So, I did want to put the burden on men to some degree by saying that if we're walking towards Christ and emulating Christ as much as possible, we do want to care enough about a woman that's going to follow Christ through us. So there's so many different ways that we can look at this. We do have to care about what our daughters think, what our wives think, things like this. We have to care, especially for the patriarch of the home.
Even in economics, like if your wife comes to you and is like, well, everything's so expensive, and you try to explain how inflation works, like those kind of things are important so that she has ways to understand how things work as well. And if you're like we shouldn't care about what you think about it, it's not I don't think it's the correct or the most charitable way of even looking at the thing. That's what I was saying. Like I don't care about I don't care about the gender of the person when it comes to what they're telling me about.
Yeah, me too.
I care about the either the ideas, the logical ideas, or the descriptors. In some cases are important, the descriptors, and in some cases the ethical framework. The ethical framework is extremely important. That's what we should.
Well, I think not just the ethical framework, but I think now we're talking about morality. Now I can feel free to talk about this because like now we can talk about justification, because if they're deleting our baby, like we should be able to care. I'm going to care about a woman's opinion if she has like, let's say she has a pattern of when a relationship goes wrong and she gets pregnant and oopsies, I have another baby. Let me just delete it and get her pregnant. Like So to me, I feel like if she has a past of this, or even the red pill mantra of people saying she used to be an ex porn star or prostitute, you're going to care about a woman's opinion because if she has a past or a pattern of something, you're going to care because in the process of vetting a relationship, you're going to care about all this and more because a lot of this is just patterns too. Voting patterns, relationships, the way that she's a mother to your children, you're going to care about all this stuff. So yeah. It's all encompassing, man.
It is.
We can't avoid it as men. We can't, and then not to mention this, but it isn't just women's opinion. We have to live in the world of feminist men's opinion too. So that's also, so it's not just a sex thing. We have first amender out here. Like, look at what you're cosplaying as. So it's like we have that opinion. I have to go debate first amender. So I have to care about feminine men's opinion and all this soy pill and. It's just crazy.
Ryan and what would be his name? We have Ryan. We have Vince Defender.
Ryan,
have,
that's another one too. Yeah,
Brian Shapiro. We have
we
have a Don.
Shapiro's another one.
Yeah, even Dusty. Like all of them. We have all of them.
Yeah, Dusty. I'm not holding back any blows when it comes to Dusty. I'm throwing haymakers. Like this is gonna be crazy on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. Okay, I'll let you go. I know you have to go to bed and to school. I'll give you the result. It's a resounding 83% that you won it. So.
Oh, it's Photoshop. I'm gonna tell him it's Photoshop.
Resounding.
You pixelated yourself. You did the same thing with the poll. I get it. It's all good.
It is what it is. No, you won by 83%, but fine.
Oh,
if you want to say that it was doctored, you just want to say that it was doctored. That
yeah,
you
it was
won,
doctored, bro. I know how it is. You're just trying to be nice and doctorate. That's fine. It's all good. Home court advantage. Anyway. It's all good. So, all right, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on my channel, Martae. You're always welcome. And
we should have another mock debate, you and I, against each other sometime. That was fun, actually. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. We should have it.
I do think that we were kind of talking past each other a little bit. You would agree, right?
Well, you were talking about the East, and I was talking about the odd.
Yeah, we were talking. That's what was happening, bro. But I was allowing it to happen, and I was fine with it.
No. You were still going back into the East.
Damn it! No, you're pulling me back in this. Remember, 4 hours later is gonna happen. Look, I know what you're doing it again. Ladies and gentlemen, Emmett trying to reel me back into the discussion. I know what he's doing. I'm on.
To the people that donated today, thank you so much for the donos. That was greatly appreciated. I'm gonna be starting paint probably tomorrow. I have my Space Marines. They're awesome, and yeah, I'll be starting that series tomorrow. So thank you so much, Martae. Have an excellent night. Take care, and God bless you.
All right, Christ is God. God bless you too. All right, brother. All right. That was crazy. I did not expect to get into it with the moderator. That was definitely unexpected. How's everybody doing in the chat, man? Also, we agree you won. The poll should be how much therapy you gave to Aftermath tonight. Yeah, man, that was crazy, man. I liked getting into this debate. Are you still debating whether or not a woman's opinion should matter or not? I already told you guys like hours ago the answer is no. So you don't care about your daughter's opinion, your wife's opinion? That's crazy. LOL. Yeah, you better put an LOL at the end of that. That's crazy because not to care about what your wife and daughter thinks and your mom or any of that, it's just crazy. That's just insane. We have to care, especially to combat feminism. And you care enough to have Gia on your show. You care enough to battle women's opinions on certain things and tell them that they're wrong. You care. So you contradicted yourself, by the way, too. That's just my 2 cents. Let me go ahead and check this real quick. Thank you for hosting this win. Dusty has childish tendencies and dirty operating tactics. The fact that you're having a debate with him makes me think we need to show up in force to make sure he doesn't go into his back. Yeah, he's going to do that. I don't know if you guys saw my short about Dusty recently about him getting alt accounts, telling people to use alt accounts to vote, bots, even things like this. Like Dusty told his chat to go get alts, do whatever you can to help me get this win. Like that's crazy. So he is definitely going to be in his bag. Remember, I said Dusty is trying to make MS debate contingent on his debate with you. Dusty is underhanded. Yeah, I know. Already know. That's crazy. Also, we agree you won. The poll should yeah, I think I read that already. Anyways, that was crazy. It was a very unexpected debate to have. This was actually supposed to be a conversation, but I was like, you know what? Give Aftermath a follow. If you guys can. Give him a follow. The guy's a real stand-up guy. I appreciate his presence on the podcast. And if you can, stay tuned. I have more debates. I'm up to my ears in debates. Go look on like the next preview debates that I have coming up. I have a few of them coming up. I've got my work cut out for them, but also my opponents do, even more so than I do. But I'll be back on pretty soon. Not today. Well, today's Monday anyways. It's like 12. It's 1 o'clock here, like 3, and I got to be up in like 5 hours. Anyways, I'm going to get some sleep. I have a debate this Wednesday, then a debate Tuesday after that, then a debate Tuesday after that. Then I got a bunch of debates. And I'm going to do some solo TikTok raids as well, too. That's what's going to happen. And I'll post them. I'm going to try to wreck the shit out of these libtards. That's going to be pretty fun. But I'll talk to you guys soon. Wednesday. What's next debate? Yeah, Wednesday. It'll be me versus Dusty, and I'm going to whoop that trick. That's what I'm going to do. This will be exciting. Anyways, Christ is God. I'll talk to you guys soon.